on topics, whether conscious or cosmic. It's never nonsense, mega levels are microscopic. It's a Killah Priest project, AD control the rocket. Before we land the plane, many things we engage and explain. The unexplained, without mask. Welcome to the Killah Priest podcast. Killah Priest podcast. Yes, I'm here live, man. Everybody's still in the building. Everybody's in the building. We're getting this together. Let me move a couple of these things. What up, everybody? Welcome to the Killah Priest Podcraft. I am your host, Killah Priest. I ain't sheep for the Middle East. I'm almost there, so prepare to say peace. You know what I mean? Running the rock is none other than ADA Dizzle.
What's good? Welcome back. It's going to be a wild show. You already know. Let's go.
Hey, yo. Yeah, we in the building. We have, Napah Shadah in the building. You know what I'm saying? Co-hosting.
Peace to the darkest minds of the light. Yes, thank you for letting me come in and co-host with you, Priest. Peace to the family.
Shout out to Overkill. I see him in the building. We're gonna keep this in crappy slappy. Our moderators that's coming in. We're gonna keep it positive on the love note. Crappy slappy in the building. Guess that's it. Shout out to Voltage. I know he's gonna be in here in a minute. We have Knowledge Born still in the building, and we have Coach Solomon, but they're not here right now. Today is gonna be very special. Very special edition today, man. This is a great build today. We have the gods in here coming all the way from Africa. One of them is from Africa. My man Den Tut. Shout out to the brother Den Tut. And we have a couple of Nuwapians in the building. Got some ill information, some information that we all need to get to. You know what I'm saying? And that we might not know. And it's 135 years with no evidence. So it's going to be very interesting when we get in here. I'm going to let y'all load up first before we get into that. Den Tut, peace to you, though. Yes.
Peace, Killah Priest, man. You know, peace. First and foremost, I'm a fan, of the music, of the art. You know what I mean? Definitely do appreciate the platform that you have right now. Yeah. And we just here with some family members and wanting to set the record straight, go through the transcript. And when you say 135 years with no evidence, who we talking about is none other than affectionately Dr. Malachi Z. York, that's been incarcerated for over 20 years right now. And, for the majority of the time, we just been wanting to just let the dust settle. And it's settled. And so now we want to take the platform and let the family know exactly what's going on. So we got Huntwy, which is one of the brothers that's on here. We have Sanan Em Labab and Nabab Ma'at, and one of our sisters, Marytat.
Right. Okay. Peace to all y'all. Peace to the brothers and sisters that's in the building. Okay. We're going to let the chat build up. Man, make sure y'all hit that super chat. This is going to be exclusive. Tell us some of the, tell me what you've been up to and what y'all been up to thus far.
Huntwy?
Peace.
Got you.
Gotta be heard.
Peace. Hold on, let me get this. Sorry, my brothers. I'm just putting down, make sure it's clear so everybody can hear. You know what I mean?
No problem. No problem.
Right. Once we get started, it's gonna be great. Okay. How you pronounce your name, brother?
My name is Huntwy Sanan Atum-Rayay. I am a student of the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Kobina Zadak York.
Right.
We're here today to basically set the record straight.
Okay.
There's been a lot of misconceptions about the case of Dr. Malachi Z. York. And first and foremost, I want to say to all real victims of child molestation, sexual assault, things of that nature, to all real victims, we definitely empathize and support any real victim of child molestation or the likes. We understand that this is a serious matter, especially in our community, and we definitely support and would give aid to those who are real victims of child molestation. We want to put that for the record.
Right.
But in this case, it's very different because you're here on a panel with many people who have very inside knowledge on what actually happened during the case of Dr. Malachi Z. York. Myself, I've been a Sabian Nuwapian since 1993, which is 30 years. And so I moved to Georgia in 1997 and moved through the different transitions that we've been in. So a lot of the information about this case is very surprising, knowing what really happened and how Dr. York was railroaded, falsely convicted, falsely arrested, and the likes. And so we're just here to set the record straight.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. That's a beautiful intro. We have Crumb in the building. Shout out to Crumb. Crumb TV. He's tuning in. Yes, indeed.
How you doing, Brother Crumb?
Indeed. Yeah, man. So there've been a we're gonna let it build up a little bit. So we got a lot of people coming in, and this is a good thing because we never knew the full story, but the story's out there. So are you saying that you're coming to debunk the story and make it clear of the doc, Malachi? Right.
Absolutely. We're here to make it very clear that there's a lot of misinformation out here, and we just want to set the record straight in terms of what really happened, in terms of who the real child molesters or in this case were. They weren't. It wasn't Dr. Malachi Z. That's actual fact. Plain.
Okay, could you give us an example? Let us go. As you just set it off, man. You just took the skirt off. I say so. You just took it off, so let's go. Let us know what's going on. All right, so who was it? Tell us about it. Go ahead. Still going on.
When you're dealing with this case,
right?
Again, Dr. Malachi Z. York is a very prominent individual who was very busy, who had a lot of things going on, and there's many times even going from upstate, moving down to Georgia, to Eatonton, Georgia, where the master teacher did a lot of traveling. He authored a lot of books, and the astronomical accounts in which these alleged victims claim that Dr. Malachi York did something to them is just, it's unfathomable that according to what they allege, Dr. York over an 8-year period had sexual relations with these individuals 1,200 times a year for an 8-year period, based on these alleged victims' testimony. And so, but when you go into the case and you understand that one of the alleged victims who actually had a agreement with the government, an immunity agreement, was the actual molester of children, and that was Nicole Lopez.
Really?
Cool. Yes, these are actual facts. This is all in the court transcripts. And if you are familiar with the case, you understand the conspiracy that this case was put together by Jacob York and his girlfriend, who was Nicole Lopez. And one of the main advocates that you see now, who is Tariq Noel, who is actually the brother of Nicole Lopez. And that's his motivation for his coming forth, as he puts it, to make these allegations in order to protect his sister.
how did it switch from a male to a female?
What do you mean?
Like the allegations that came on York, you said it was a female that was molesting the children, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna say that right. Okay. I'm asking, how did it go from the female to the male? Could you explain that to us? Like,
Okay, the case all came about from a trip with Jacob York and a lot of the alleged victims who all went to this trip in South Beach several days before they came forward to present this case to Sheriff Howard Richard Seals, who has been put on record to say that there was no case until Jacob York came forward with the alleged victims. So they went to this South Beach trip, which Jacob York even documents himself.
Was it Freaknik?
No.
Oh,
This was in South Beach.
Okay,
No.
good.
This is in South Beach.
All right. I thought I heard of something like that. Go ahead.
And so he documents what happened during this trip. That it's all on YouTube. It's very apparent. And in this trip to South Beach is when they came up with this conspiracy to conspire against Dr. Malachi Z. York. Of course, they used something of the sexual nature because it touches on the heartstrings of individuals. When you hear that a child has been molested, then the first thing you think of, you think of burying a person or burning a person at the stake. But what you have to understand is that at the time these allegations were brought forth, none of these individuals were children. You follow? They were all young adults who were had a problem with the community because they wanted to live in the world. They wanted to drink, they wanted to party, they wanted to do all these different things, drugs and that nature, because that's the lifestyle they wanted to live, and they couldn't do that in our community. And so a lot of them, they conspired, they were disgruntled, they felt that they were they felt left out from the world. And so they conspired together to put this story, and also in hopes of getting book deals, movie deals, riches and things of that nature. So this is part of the reason why they came forward and made these false allegations.
Okay. Dang, I never heard that one. Okay, so all right. So we got him. They went and they got him on the false allegations because of Jacob York, which is his son, girlfriend who done it. Okay, why do you and you explained that they did this because of they was out there sinning in the world, right?
Exactly.
To bring down the doc. Okay. What about the evidence that they said? Could you explain that part?
That's the thing. There is no evidence. This is a case that's primarily based on hearsay. There is no evidence.
Wow. So,
again, you have to look at it this way. Well, this is one of the things that Dr. York teaches us. He says that emotions move faster than logic. You follow? So usually what happens is when something touches your emotions, logic goes out the window. This is why you punch somebody when they make you mad. Even though this person may be bigger, stronger than you, the logic part doesn't kick in. You follow? So a charge like child molestation, for instance, touches on the emotional strings of an individual.
Right.
And so the first thing you say is, oh man, they had to do it. Nobody would just say this without, something happening. Or, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so it's on those emotional heartstrings. But the facts of the matter are this. We touch on this very, very simple point. during May 8th, 2002, when they raided the land, there were 5 children that were taken into de facto custody, right? And these 5 children were named in the indictment as victims, alleged victims who were molested by Dr. Malachi Z. York. They taken into de facto custody. They were kept, examined, and there was a trial held in terms to determine if these children were in fact molested. And the judge who presided over that case was Judge Spivey. And in that case, Judge Spivey determined that all 5 of these children were not molested because these children literally said they weren't, and they examined them psychologically, medically, and all of those things, and determined that they weren't molested and released them back to their children. These same 5 children were still in the indictment against Dr. Malachi Z. York.
Wow. Wow. So it's definitely sound like some conspiracy that was going on. They
definitely was a conspiracy.
And they were trying to take down the doc for a very long time. So you're saying that they used children to do it of his own clique.
Exactly. And so
were they against him?
The 5 children weren't. And in fact, one of them actually testified in court that no, nothing ever happened to me. And again, these are the children that Dr. York was convicted of, several children or several individuals who said nothing happened to me. And he was still convicted of those individuals. So this is part of the
okay, I'm sorry to talk over you. Go ahead.
This is part of the misconception, because people think there was hundreds of children. Yeah, how many children do you think it was in the case?
I heard a lot.
You heard a lot?
Yeah, I heard a lot.
How many? Anybody else?
Maybe like, I think it was it's over
1,000.
Yeah, 1,000.
In the thousands?
Thousands, yeah.
At first it was 1,000, and then it got narrowed down to like 200, and he was convicted of 135.
I like that, yeah.
That's all misinformation. See, when you go back into go back into the federal case, there was only like 13 alleged victims. Did you know that?
No.
Right, and the 5 of those alleged victims are the ones I mentioned that were proven nothing happened.
May I interject, brother?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Peace, family. My name is Atuntat Marytat. Another thing that we have to realize is, like my brother stated, molestation was put forth as what this case was about because of it causes almost an irreparable blemish when you accuse someone of that, and it stains that person's character in the public's mind. One, again, there is no video evidence, there is no forensic evidence, there's no physical evidence to support these claims. And another common misconception is that the federal case is a quote unquote molestation case. Molestation is charged in the state. Dr. York is serving a sentence based on a federal charge, which was RICO and intent. So number one, how is intent proven? It was not proven in this case. Number two, how could he get convicted on a RICO charge as one person? There's no one else serving on that charge. And the RICO was introduced because the statute of limitations on the false charges against Dr. York had run out. So, brother, this is a conspiracy with a lot of moving parts and on a lot of levels, and we're trying to unpackage all of that today.
Well, let's get the unpackaging. Let's start with the strings. Let's go. All right. I'm all ears. All right, so which part I want to go to? Okay, so what about this part? I don't even want to rush into this because they had the trial on video, right? Correct about that? They had that when he
No, the trial was not on video. What happened is the court was closed. Right. It was on closed circuit television. So
it seemed like
the trial itself wasn't video.
Right. It seemed like it seemed like he wasn't himself when he said that he was, when they asked him when he was guilty of the crimes, and he admitted that he was. That was kind of it looked weird to me. What do you have to say about that?
Well, now you're talking about the plea.
Yeah.
That Dr. York was coerced. So the appearance that you see him as,
Yeah.
And the effect that you got about him is
Right.
absolutely correct. There was a level of psychological torture, sleep deprivation that was done to coerce Dr. York into the plea. And Dr. York as a person, as a being, he put himself before the co-conspirators who had small breastfeeding age children. There were co-conspirators on the case at that point that were serving time. And rather than have these young sisters with young babies who were being breastfed continue to be held in detention, he basically offered himself as a sacrificial lamb for them. Now, when we talk about plea, again, that skews the public's view, just like when you mentioned molestation. We see plea, everybody wants to say, oh, that it must be true. But there's research that we have, you can look up, it's on the Pew Research site, 98% of cases end in pleas.
Right.
And then in the feds, only 2% of federal witnesses go to trial and most are found guilty. So when you see the plea in the public's eye, it always looks like, oh, he must have did it. But one, we know in our community, there's definitely such a thing as plea doctors to just get people to plead out for things they know they did not do. And two, the plea is by no means, we should know that as a community, an admission of guilt. If you're put in a certain situation and certain demands are being made and you're being psychologically tortured, anyone who knows Dr. York, you can search him online. And if you look at the video that you see online of him versus how he presents himself, it's very clear that there was some torture and he took that plea under duress.
Can I add value?
Yes, you may.
I'm an unbiased person. I don't have a dog in the fight, but I will say this: if you go look at that plea, he didn't say anything. He didn't say guilty, not guilty. He didn't say yes. He didn't say no. He just nodded, and that's admissible in court. They have something called a stenographer that takes the transcript from the courts. So, you have to say, I am, whoever it is you are. You have to say yes, you have to say no. You can't do sign language and nod because the court's stenographer can't document that to say you said this or you say that. Sign language is admissible in court.
Thank you for that, brother.
Okay. We're getting somewhere. People. That was cool. All right. Back to where you at, my man Tut? Do you want to add on?
I mean, this is a beautiful day and time being able to speak on this level as the dust has cleared. And when I say the dust has cleared, it's because it's 20 years that Dr. York is serving, right? Has served so far. He's 78 years old. And everybody, the case has painted him out to be a monster. So you forget all the good that he's done, the people that he's influenced from Queen Latifah, Dougie Fresh, KRS-One, then the list goes on, Nas. You know what I mean? Like these people that he's affected, that's affected millions and millions of people through their music. And by virtue of that, he's like, okay, Dr. York is this monster. So now, while we here to talk about the case in specifics, a lot is what's going to happen is people still might say, nah, it's not true. But I'm hoping that there is a group that sees the sense in what we're talking, because the sense that we're pointing out is what's in the transcripts. Like, and when you go in the transcripts, people will say, well, let's talk about the paperwork. Well, this is the paperwork that we're talking about. The fact that there was no evidence, that's a fact. Judge Spivey said, hey, you kids go back to your parents because you was found not to be molested. When the medical doctor saw that there was no lesions from rupture, from force, anything, that's what allowed those children to go back to their parents. So, but then there's the specifics within the case that we would like to talk about as well. Like, case in point of the fact that the judge was an attorney at a period of time when he lost the case, a medical malpractice, and then from losing that medical malpractice, he became the judge that gave the 135 years, or the FBI agents not saying on the trial. In the trial, saying that they didn't have any evidence when the attorney Adrian Patrick asked, do you have evidence for this transportation? Do you have evidence for this for X, Y, and Z? And they said no. So then the people that's here, one were either children during the time, or two were on the transportation from New York to Atlanta. Or the experience hands-on what happened. So for me, I'm just excited and happy that this day and time is here for us to be able to set the record straight by going into the transcripts and the case very specifically.
Okay. All right.
Can I add something else?
Yeah, go ahead.
Does anybody remember when Chris Brown and Soulja Boy got into that beef a couple years back?
Yeah.
Yes.
Soulja Boy. Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
Well, Chris Brown and Soulja Boy were beefing over a girl, and she was an artist as well. And that girl who they were beefing over, I think she's washed up now. But anyway, she was being managed. I'm sorry?
She was managed by Jake.
Yes. She was managed by
Karuche Tran.
She could correct. Yakub is how I know him. But even though again I don't have a dog in the fight, I don't take a position, I will say that anytime I study, whatever's going on, I was told follow the money trail. Whoever benefits, that's the person you should focus on. And we saw where Yakub's career skyrocketed after his father fell. And if we look at the parallel, I find it to be very interesting. This is darn near the exact same story of Elijah Muhammad. Didn't Elijah Muhammad's son go rogue and he accused his father and pulled Malcolm X into it and said a bunch of bad stuff to tear his father work down? And I'm like, okay, so everybody came down on Malachi Z. York and said he was the devil, but then when the same, almost line for line, happened the same thing to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, it was a completely different approach on how we viewed it. But I yield the floor.
I mean, that's a great point, brother. When you think about the persecution of the leaders, anyone who has studied history, if you look at Honorable Elijah Muhammad, if you look at the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, when you look throughout time, it's the same MO that's being used on all our leaders. So, if you're any type of scholar of our history as a people, you should know what this is, 5 blocks down when you're seeing a conspiracy when somebody is set up. In fact, in Dr. York's trial, there was a juror 62, who passed a note to the judge saying that she has seen something like this before and he's being set up. One of the jurors identified it as a setup. So, I appreciate that comment, Brother Crump. Like, if you study our history, we always see the same thing. And actually, Dr. York spoke about this in a tape called Persecution of the Leaders. You're always going to see something around what? Money, something around sex. And with Dr. York, because of who he is, because they were also attempting to get the land where the community of Tamaray was housed, a lot of layers and agendas with this, they just put it all there. They put the money accusations there. They put the sex accusations there. So at this point, we should be sophisticated enough to pick it apart to see what this really is. And again, as my brother Dentut said, we have a lot of information from the transcripts where you see even the lead FBI investigator on the case states, do you have evidence to prove the allegations of travel for the purpose of having sex with a minor, which is what Dr. York was charged with? And she said, no. This is May 9th, 2002.
You have documents all this too?
Absolutely.
Yes, if we could share screen, yes, we have the documentation. Sorry,
Let's
brother.
go. Okay. All right. Who's the lion in the bottom? We have more people in there. Let's see the
That's
lion.
the sister. That's Sister Marytat.
Hello, sister.
That's me, brother.
Oh,
Round
that's-
back. Greetings. That was me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you was the middle. My bad. Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely. We could. I mean, the presentation has started. Y'all could. I guess you could share the screen and take us through it as we go on. Right. It's on. Who else is in the building?
KP, Killah Priest. One thing I would like to, if possible, if you allow, while we putting the paperwork together, on the transcripts together on the screen, is when they say transporting minors for the intent of sex, they didn't comprehend that even back in the Ansar days, Dr. York had attachments, blood attachments to a Native American background. So when he was coming out, when he was leaving from New York to go to the New York Catskills to go to Georgia, that was a tribal transfer, meaning like a family was leaving one area of the country to go to another area of the country. And if I can, I would like, Sanan, because he was actually on that trip as a youth, and he's able to break that down like vividly and to the point, and he's able to talk about the whole thing with Tariq Noel, because he was like, they're the same age group. And it's like, you get punched in the face one day, and then you come to the house and you don't tell nobody, you get punched in the face. You know what I'm saying? You come and you lay down right next to me. It's like, just like back in the day, 3 in the bed, you know what I'm saying? Two going one way, one going the other way. And I don't know, you had a fight that day, or I don't know, somebody did something to you that day. And he's able to go into specifics because he is of the age of Tariq Noel. And Tariq, as Huntwy was breaking down earlier, his whole motive behind it is to protect his family. One, me and his sister, because his sister actually took a deal with the government, right? In order to plea against Dr. York, she had to agree to be like, okay, as long as you don't say that I'm the real child molester, because they had proof of who she was sleeping with at the age of 25. The boy that she was sleeping with was 13 or 14 years old. So that's how she was able to take that plea, or that deal she took, in order for hers to be wiped away. And then she went against Dr. York. So while that happened, Tariq also took the position of doing it that way, because he knew exactly what was going on with his sister, his mother, and so forth. But my point is the transporting of the minors for the intent for the intent of sex. If Sanan, if you don't mind, I'm jumping in and breaking down that part. That part would be great.
Be my guest. Let's go.
Greetings. How you doing?
Peace.
How's everybody doing? How you doing, Killah Mike? Greetings to the panel.
Greetings.
All right. So we could kind of go into the transportation. My name is Sanan, right? Sanan Em Labab, and my family was actually one of the original families that was moved from Sullivan County down to Putnam County, Georgia. On the original trip, what they call, the actual original first trip. One of the things is that the Noel family was not a part of the first trip. That's first. This person, Nicole Lopez, right? She was an adult by the time she even moved on Tamaray, right? We had a community, right, in Spring Valley, upstate New York, right? And we also had what we call Mount Zion, or Jazza, which was a retreat that we had from where we used to go from Brooklyn to upstate New York, in order to be on our land, being around nature. We had a farm out there, like a small little farm where we had where we would sell eggs. We had horses and different things like that on the land. We had boats. We had different things like that was up there. And also we were on Native American land, so at the time, right, there was a lot of threats that was happening. And this actually came up during the case that there was over like 10 assassination attempts on Dr. York's life at the time. Right? He was known as Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi, right? That was the name that he was going by at the time. And it was threats happening every single day, right? Up at the house. This is the inside of our house, right? Upstate New York, right? Where they allege, right, some of the first incidents took place, right? And the threats was happening, like I said, daily, where people were calling, they would threaten the children, they would threaten the sisters, they would threaten, the whole, tribe or organization that was up there. And at the time, we were isolated. It wasn't like we was in Bushwick, Brooklyn, where the headquarters moved from Brooklyn to upstate New York. That's what caused us to actually be moved down to Georgia. And it wasn't just Georgia, right? But we thought about going to Florida. We thought about going to South Carolina, right? And the reason why we chose Florida was because it was Wahani. It was what we was considered Wahani, which was the Yamasee or the Yamasee tribal land. So one, right, Dr. York never, right, transported anybody. He wasn't even there during the transport of any of the families, right? He came individually, right, with the people who he was with. We came on a rented vehicle, right? We actually the first group came on a rented vehicle from upstate New York, right? And my family was the largest family. My family and the Johnson family was the two largest family that was actually on that trip, right? Because I'm the youngest of my other two brothers, and then you have my mother. And then it was the same thing for the Johnson family, where, it was three children, two boys and one girl. And then obviously, Kathy Johnson, which was said to be Dr. York, alleged to be Dr. York co-conspirator, and when we first moved down to the land, obviously it was nothing down there. It was a whole bunch of trees. We just came from a fully developed, estate down to 476 acres of land. It was a deer pen, and it was something that we were scouting out. The family was scouting out for some time, right, prior to us actually coming down there, right? When we came down there, we actually met Dr. York already there. You know what I'm saying? He was already down there on the property or whatever. And there was a lot of things dealing with, who actually transported us, but it was actually an official company that transported us, just like you would go to any place and hire it. And one thing to take notice of is that we were all with our parents, right? All the children that was on there, first of all, there was only like maybe 3-4 families, right? Including Habiba Washington was on there, which was the government lead witness. She was on that trip with us, right? On that particular trip, which was trip number 1, so that's how we got down there to Putnam County, Georgia. We was transported down there by actually an Islamic company out of New Jersey, right? And it was the company was actually hired by a person named Wali, right? Which was one of Dr. York's closest confidant at the time, right? And he actually went to the company and hired the company, and we actually left like in the middle of like a snowstorm. You know what I'm saying? It was snowy upstate New York at the time, right? And by the time we came down to Georgia, right, it was hot. It was like sunny. I think it was somewhere in around February.
Right.
February of 1993. We're talking about February of 1993.
Can I ask a question of you? Do you mind if I jump in and ask some questions?
Sure.
Is that okay, Priest?
Yeah, you can ask a question.
Yeah.
Why, this is a 2-part question. Why did his group move from Brooklyn to upstate? And can you address the criminal investigations that were going on about York as far as arson, assassination, the allegations of him being involved in a lot of organized crime from Brooklyn and then moving up to the Catskills. I think it was upstate New York. Can you talk to us about that?
Sure. I can talk to you about that, right? One thing I say is that, you know, Dr. York has always been a target, right, by people because of the works and different things that were being done over the years. Meaning, in Brooklyn, he was known to actually clean up the city of all the drugs, right, and the violence that was in Brooklyn during the 70s, right, early 70s going into the 80s, you know, to the point where the mayor, Ed Koch, you know, wrote a letter. And one of the evidence is Dr. York was arrested, right, in 1988, right? This is during the same time that we was actually upstate. And he was arrested because he was trying to travel out of the country at the time. And he utilized his name, right, Isa Hadi Mahdi, right, opposed to his actual name, which was Isa Muhammad at the time. He had his passport in, right? And they arrested him. And during the time, his attorney, right, which was named Jonathan Marks, who was a Jewish attorney who's now a district attorney, right, for the Southern District of New York, right? He was Dr. York's personal attorney at the time. He pretty much wrote a letter to the judge because the person who arrested him or went for the warrant was actually the mayor, not Bloomberg, but Mayor Giuliani, right? I'm not sure if y'all familiar with Rudy Giuliani, right?
Yeah.
But that was the person who was actually responsible for the arrest. And during this time, Dr. York never actually, you can actually see this on the record, he never actually did time, right? He was actually doing weekend, right, you know, time, right? And the reason why was because the letter that Jonathan Mark, which is now district attorney, wrote to the judge. And that letter went into how Dr. York cleaned up, right, the city of Brooklyn, right, and how he was honored for that, and how they developed over 70 buildings, right, within the Bushwick community of New York. So
they had a pizza shop too. I'm sorry to cut your wisdom. He had a pizza shop too, right?
Yep. He had a pizza shop. So one of the things, right, we're going to go straight into it because I don't want it too much be long-winded, right? Where we can share, because actually we allowed the FBI to do an investigation, right, within our community. And we actually have those documents for that investigation of all 12 of our cities, right, that we can actually show on this about everything that you're specifically talking about. And this is one of the reasons why the FBI, right, said, you know, in volume 14, which was the, you know, where the verdict came down, was that our organization has never been a violent organization, or they've never found no actual evidence of that. One of the main reasons is because they did a search in the 80s up into the 90s of us, the actual FBI themselves, right, about all these different reports, not just in Brooklyn, not just in Philly, but New Jersey, DC, Chicago. We had tabernacles. You know, my family's from the Chicago Tabernacle, right? You know, so this is something that we can actually get into. And so one of the things that let me see, that we can share is like what Killah Priest just said, as far as the wheat pizza restaurant in the community, right? It was a community, right, that we actually had. It wasn't just wheat pizza restaurant, but it's also laundromats. You know, it was mosques, it was whole situations that was happening, you know. So if you could give me just 1 second, I'll pull it up. Some of the things, some of the works over the years.
Sure. And when you pulled it up, I do want to ask everybody, listening to what you said, yes, he was very loved by a lot of people in the communities that that your group was in. So I'm trying to understand if the FBI, you said you weren't violent, that it wasn't a violent community and everything was fine, and he was accepted by Mayor Koch, and then in Georgia, he was accepted by the governor. Where's the conspiracy? Can you help us find out where the government conspiracy is? If you say that he was fine and the government didn't have a problem with him, where's the actual conspiracy against him?
But that conspiracy starts with the local sheriff in Eatonton, Putnam County. He was the one who had a a real problem initially with Dr. York. So you hear a lot about people expressing how the living conditions were unfavorable on the land, right? And the reason being is because a lot of the problem with Putnam County started with zoning. The land was initially zoned agriculturally, and so we were trying to get it zoned so that we can start putting houses and things up there, but we weren't able to do that because of the battle that we went through with the county. This is really what started a lot of what was going on. Us trying to get zoning, us trying to get certain building permits and things of that nature. That was the battle we had with the county. So we were trying to get families up there. There was things that Dr. York said, because see, what people don't realize is that what Dr. York was doing, and part of our community, is with his Native American ties and with establishing or filing an application with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, which he was put on the registry, but he didn't accept, was establishing that, yes, I am a Native American. And by being a Native American, I have the right to not only be self-governing, but I have a right to establish and reclaim my land, which America has stolen by violating the treaties that they made with our people. You follow? So what Dr. York attempted to do was not just include us as Nuwaubians, but if you recall, during that period of time, we were called the United Nuwaubian Nation of Moors. So we were including the Moors. We were including, so I remember Dr. York said on the class, he said, I don't care if your mother has her house on the land and she erects a giant cross. I don't care about that. You follow? Because we were on the path, as Dr. York being the continuation of the teachings of Noble Drew Ali as well as Marcus Garvey, to really liberate our people, because we're not free until we govern ourselves.
I had a quick question for the sister. Brother Crumb, is it okay if I just ask a quick question before you go on?
Please and thank you.
Thank you, brother. Sister, I'm just curious, when you mentioned like the government investigation and FBI, what was your source of that information in terms of what was happening in Brooklyn? I'm just curious on what the source is, because I think it does have a link to what the brother Huntwy just shared about what was going on in Georgia. Are you getting that from news reports or documentation? Where is that from?
It's public record that he was investigated by the FBI. I mean, that is accurate, correct or no?
Well, the brother Saneb is going to share the information about that. I know when you were talking about, I think, the arson and all of those allegations, I know I actually saw in real time those allegations being raised in New York City by Channel 7 and Sarah Wallace. It was a big investigation. So I was wondering if you were getting it from that because, okay, because there was an alignment between what was pushed in the media on Channel 7 and a lot of the things that were going on with the zoning that Brother Huntwy was just explaining. It was like a narrative between New York and Georgia to push a certain narrative about the community, which connected to the zoning battle that went on during that time.
Right. I do thank you for asking that question, because it does bring up another question. And I love how you're answering the questions openly, candidly, without any hesitation. I do want to ask about not just the news and the media, but the strong generation after generation Muslim community that was starkly opposed to Dr. York, and they were very vocal about him and his criminal activity, not just about your beliefs, which I respect your beliefs, but just him, allegations from the actual Islamic community, the Black Islamic community, that he was involved in criminal activity. So yeah, it wasn't just the media that these sources. Can you, if your family, you and your people, could you address how the Black Muslim community was very much against Dr. York? So yeah, if you would do that for us as well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, before we get into that, I wanted to share. I heard from a couple of different places, a lot of heat came from Putnam County once he erected that pyramid. The city or the county complained that it was an eyesore. From what I gather, it was intimidating. They saw, our people building, and this was something out of the norm. In terms of the Black Muslims, I mean, I know that wasn't directed at me, but another thing I saw then that I still see now is the infighting amongst the conscious community. I know that Dr. Clark was a part of the, I'm sorry, Dr. Henrik Clark was a part of that. It wasn't just the Black Muslims who had an issue with him. It was everybody who had an issue with everybody. Just like now with Sarah Sutnasetti and Polite, it was the same thing back then. And even when Sarnetter did that great debate against Sarnetter and Polite, that was just a reenactment of Dr. York versus John Henry Clark.
Well, thank you, Crumb. If we could get some information to add on from what the brother Crumb said from the actual group, can you talk to us about not it just being infighting? Now, we know that Dr. York had unconventional teaching, which are very intriguing. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that there was a lot of intriguing information that he brought forward, but a lot of the Islamic community was also complaining about his actions in the community aside from his teachings. So if you could add on to what Brother Crumb said, can you address that? How it's not just about the media and the white man, but also Black people in the community were, for what I heard, they drove, which there's always two sides of the story, but they drove Dr. York out of the community. I don't know how much that is true, up into upstate New York. And then ultimately he was investigated. He owed like $200,000 in taxes. And then he moved to to Georgia. So I just want to get from the group, I appreciate this paperwork, just hear from you as well as Brother Crumb. Thank you so much.
Okay. I can address that. One of the things that did come out during the trial, right? This is documented, that Dr. York overpaid his taxes to the point where the government owed him money. You follow? So a lot of the information, again, this is misinformation that is being put out. So when you're dealing with the Islamic community, for instance, Dr. York, when you, again, I'm not to try to go too much into our teachings, but Dr. York is not one who beholds to the Arab community, or because the Arabs in Saudi Arabia and the likes look at African or Black Muslims as converts. And these are concepts that Dr. York didn't accept. So a lot of things that he taught was against the Arab world and their stronghold on Islam, right? And so Dr. York taught Islam from what we refer to as a pristine purity. And a lot of the things that the Arab world does is that the Arab trying to supplant themselves as the original, even though the word Arab in itself is a word that means wanderer or traveler or a certain, not an original. And so in going into that thing, Dr. York has what he referred to as a silsila that goes all the way back to Muhammad and all the way back to the prophets. You follow? So the Arab world supplanted themselves into the Islam and the silsila and things of that nature and what they call their khalifaship. And so these are things that Dr. York spoke against, and most African Muslims only follow what the Arabs teach. And Dr. York was against a lot of what they taught.
Okay. What we're looking at.
Okay, so what we're looking at is the receipts for what the sister was asking for, right? And this is an FBI investigation that took place in the 80s, where our community, right, allowed them, we did an open investigation of our finances, of everything. This is 189 pages. So I'm slowly going through it because obviously we can't go through all this, but I'm at least showing it so when people, they have time, you know, they can go back and really see who was involved. And you see, this is our community, right? So all the way up until there, they've been investigating our community. So how long do they need? They arrested him on May 8th, you know, 2002. So if they've been investigating him since the 80s, that means they had nothing. And another way to prove that is because the main two witnesses, right, on August 11th, they did a interview, right, which was Julaine Ward and Joanne Cronier, and they said we had nothing. They said there was no evidence that we had on, and this is 2022, to make this clear, which is just a few months ago, right? They said that we had no evidence until Habiba Washington came, right, to us, right? There was no evidence that they could find on their record, right, of any criminal activities that they were even able to hold Dr. York to, right? All the things that you're talking about is in these documents. The armed robbery, look, armed and dangerous, all these different things.
And we saw the arson, not to interrupt you, but I think you were going, and I know you have to go through it, but the sister was saying where this is the public, this is public information, correct? I think this is the same information that on the internet, correct?
This is, yes, this is Freedom of Information Act. FOI, Freedom of Information Act. Yes, that's what this is, right? And so, so I'm showing you, right, where you see like here, Sons of the Green Light, Passion Products, and Camp Jezza Abba, right? That's a real place. That's what the place we was just telling you about, right? Which is, and I'm just trying to go through this so that people can come back. Look, these are all the, look, Albany, Atlanta, Baltimore, Chicago, Cleveland, Newark, Norfolk, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. These were all of our communities. And we had an open a relationship where we allowed them to come in and do this actual research on our finances, on everything, and they found nothing. They asked questions about this, they asked questions about that, but they don't find nothing. You know, so that's just so you know, you could know that these things do exist. And if I could share one more thing, right?
Sure, but I want to come in and ask you about the document. It's like a 20, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it like a 25-year investigation? And where did the allegations spark from?
The allegation sparked from a letter that was written from an individual in 1998 to the Putnam County. And how you know this is that you have to go within the evidence sheets of the state case. One thing that they hide is the state case, because the state case is actually dead docket, meaning he would already have served that time, right? And so so this is how you actually find the evidence. And in the evidence, you'll see the date of all the items that they seized, right? All of the names of the people they interviewed. And it was real astounding how you all said that y'all thought it was 1,000 people. Man, that made me laugh so hard to my stomach. I couldn't believe that. I thought y'all was gonna say at least 100, 200. Y'all said 1,000 people. That shit's crazy. Listen, that is out of control. And
how many people were in the community?
I'm gonna tell you the reason why y'all say that though.
Excuse me, wait. If it's so out of control, how many people were actually in the community?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you, right? It depends on which community. As you just saw the FBI report, you see 12 cities. We are the United Sabians Worldwide, right? We always been worldwide, right? And Dr. York established communities all throughout the Caribbean, right? Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, you know, Grenada, Barbados, Guyana, right?
So it's well over 1,000
also
people,
throughout
right?
the UK, well over 1,000 people, right?
Yeah, so it's not unbelievable that 1,000 people over a certain amount of time, right? Because we're not. Wait, but I want to ask you a question. Before 1998,
hold on, wait a minute. But I want to address one thing real fast.
Started, right?
I want to address one thing. The reason why that's said is because the witness list, right? So let me bring new knowledge to you, right? And I love your questions, right? Is because the witness list, right, is every FBI agent who raided the land. Have you ever seen the movie 300?
Yes.
Okay, 300, right? We the only organization that went through that in American history was called 300, where we had 300 confirmed agents. It was over 200 FBI agents and over 100 local law enforcement agents from Baldwin County, Clayton County, Putnam County, Newton County, right, and Bibb County, right, to come to raid 470 acres of land where maybe just 150 people were living in during the time, right? There's never been 1,000 people that lived around Dr. York, right? And the land was the most that people actually lived around Dr. York, right? And during that time, and Dr. York actually moved off the land in the late 90s to Athens, Georgia, right?
Sure.
So
Did
I'm
he ever
giving you
travel?
knowledge of this. Is so when you look at the witness list, there's over 200 witnesses that's FBI agents. That's why people couldn't overstand. But the list as far as the people who testified on his behalf and testified against him, right? That amounted, right, to 40 something, including the witnesses that testified it on his behalf, right? So what you have to understand is the ones who actually testified against, I can name the ones who testified against Dr. York. Right? If y'all want me to start naming them right now.
Five witches. Five witches.
I just wanted to ask you a question. I want to get clear.
But
Okay,
I can yield
so
if anybody
the
else want to add on.
Okay.
Well, you said a lot, and I just wanted to. You said you would love to answer our questions. I appreciate it. So the RICO charges are for interstate, right? Interstate sex trafficking. That's what this, or what?
No, RICO.
Was he convicted of RICO?
No, RICO. Let me give you a little knowledge.
Okay, before
right?
you do, because
RICO,
I know you're going to go long. I have a question behind that. Did he ever? Did he ever leave the state, or was he only in Georgia?
Well, obviously we were in Brooklyn. We're worldwide. Dr. York was a world traveler, right? And he's always traveled around the world, right? And there's evidence of that. And I can show you some of the evidence back in the 70s and the 80s of pictures and, things of, how far, he was traveling, to Saudi Arabia, to Egypt, to Sudan. He actually went to school in Khartoum, right? In Sudan, right? And so he always traveled everywhere. So when you say, was Dr. York traveling, we had communities all around the world and in most states down the Eastern Coast. So it's a very broad question to ask. But what I will say is this, is that Dr. York was living in the state of New York, right? And this is the reason why his BOP number ends in 054, right? That's because he was first arrested in the state of New York. State of New York is 054, which give the misconception of the Dwight York. That's a fictitious name that they utilized because there was no Dwight York that was ever arrested. He never had a passport in the name Dwight York. There was never a Dwight York on any birth certificates, right? So we also have evidence of that, of researching a search done in all 50 states and the Commonwealth of the state of Massachusetts, in which they claim that he was born. So I think a lot of this is just information, right? And maybe not having the proper people to answer the simple questions, right? That's being asked, but yeah. So, as far as transportation, he was flying all over the world. As far as did he transport minors? No, he did not transport no minors across state lines. And the RICO stands for racketeering, influence, corrupt organization. Right. And that's
right?
dealing with that
part of corrupt organization, right?
No, it's not. No.
Okay. Prostitution isn't?
No, that's dealing with the Mann Act, the United States Code for the Mann Act. So you can look it up. That's MANN Act, right? And actually, the FBI decided to name this ghost, or this case, the Stain case, One Man Act. That's where it actually come from. And you're here, Julian Ward and Joanne Cronier first introduced that a few months ago when they did their interview. So yes, so that's the Mann Act. He was charged with RICO and the Mann Act. What they tried to say was that he was also, because he transported or caused people to be transported, was alleged, right? That the people who was transported was also involved in avoiding taxes. But as the brother Huntwy just explained, right, he actually overpaid his taxes. And how this is the restitution order, right? Or what they call the order of forfeiture. And we can actually share that on the screen as well to show you how his books look according to the judge that persecuted him, who charged him, $522,000 for his restitution order. So if that answers your question, I yield. And I'll just be sharing some of the travels that Dr. York has done over the 70s and 80s, so you can see that this thing was more political than you're calculating.
Right.
You know, that's you know, like you said, where was the conspiracy? Well, the conspiracy was over the land, right, and the location of the land, right, and the conspiracy was over the case that we were fighting for our residential zoning, and a person who died in 1998 of the name of Eli Richardson, you know, and he was actually over our tribe at the time. And Judge Royals, he was an attorney for 5 years, you know, and, you know, he's always been in the high echelon, you know, UGA circle, right? Which means that, you know, he was representing the McCormick Mills law firm at the time, right? And that law firm is a law firm that's been up in Georgia for over 175 years, to let you understand how old this law firm that was sued by Dr. York family or Dr. York father-in-law for millions of dollars, right? And he withdrew off this case just to become an attorney to be over Dr. York's case. So when you say conspiracy, I'm not sure, are you talking, you know, we can go deep into the conspiracy.
Right. If I could just get in here, and you said a lot, and thank you. We were
here, let me try to chime in as well, too, please.
Just a minute, Crumb. I'm almost finished here. I'm just saying something.
Okay, you've been going on for a while, but okay, no problem.
And then I haven't said anything yet, but after I'm done, I will let you.
You said a lot, but no problem.
I actually was gonna ask the brother after what he just said, and then, you know, you can go. After what he just said, I had asked him initially, why were those investigations going on for 25 years? He said a lot, but really what we need to focus on, I didn't really want to go into right away Malachi Z. York, his character, him as a person himself. We can get to that. I wanted to really talk about this whole conspiracy thing. So far, what we've heard is it's over land that was in Georgia in the 90s. But again, we need to make sure that the audience knows these investigations were going on, as they said, well before they moved to Georgia. These investigations were going on from the late 60s. Late 60s.
No.
So they weren't going. So he wasn't being. Hold on. He wasn't being investigated in 67 to the 70s.
I think I just want to chime in here. I think we're.
Well, I mean, was he or not?
Okay, no, and I'm gonna answer your question, but we have to be clear on what we're saying is when we say investigations, we can't make it seem like there was one continuous investigation from New York City all the way to Georgia. There was an investigation that was done in New York City that was called by, like the brother was explaining earlier, that Dr. York, it's true, he did have or create a lot of contention with other leaders, other religious sects and things of that nature. And there were investigations that took place in New York City that had nothing to do with the investigations that was taking place in Georgia. And I just want to make that clear that it wasn't one continuous investigation, it was two separate. And the last thing I wanted to just say is that I think it's good that we having this platform, and I keep hearing, you know, I don't want to ask this or I don't want to. We're open to answer any questions. I think now is a platform because it's been some time that people haven't addressed certain questions and people haven't brought certain things out, or certain topics have been touchy. We understand it's a touchy topic, it's a touchy conversation, but one thing we want to be clear on is that we as Nuwaubians, we understand that there was victims on both sides of this case. You had the victims or the alleged victims that are saying that things happened to them. Then you had the victims of the people who was on the land when the land was raided for something that didn't or never happened. And then you have to look at it from this perspective, is that a lot of the people who were saying that Dr. York did certain things to them were put in a situation where they had to defend themselves or defend their family members. And just as any or most people would do, if you're put in a situation where you know your mother committed crimes, or you know certain things took place, or you know you was involved in certain things and your family members was involved in certain things, you were put in a position where it's either I'm going to choose this one man, Dr. York, over my family, as some of the victims or the alleged victims said. When you look in the transcripts, you'll see that some of the alleged victims state that I was told that I had to testify against Dr. York, or this was going to happen to me, or my mother was going to go to jail, or I was going to be taken away. Even like when you look into one of the main key witnesses on Dr. York's case, which was Issa Johnson states directly that nothing ever happened to him. And he actually states that I was told by the federal government that they know something happened to me. And I told them nothing happened. And I was told repeatedly that something did happen to me. And I know something happened to me. And he was used as the prosecutor's key witness. And then what people will say, well, oh, well, he was coerced into saying that. Well, that couldn't be farther from the truth, is because if you look at the docket, you'll know that Issa Johnson was one of the only children that was taken into de facto custody and held in the government's custody from this time of the raid all the way up into the trial. So there would have been no opportunity for any Nawapians or anybody to coerce him into saying anything. But he says on the stand that, you know, I was put in this position. So I think that we got to understand too that it's not a blame game here. When you go down to the root of it, it really boils down to racism. It really boils down to Sheriff Howard Richard Seals. It really boils down to jealousy or animosity of his son, Jacob York. And it also boils down to Otto or Nikki Lopez. A lot of these other people or the other children or alleged victims in the case were really victimized themselves by being put in a situation where they had to make a choice to choose their family, siblings, or parents over Dr. York. And as many people might have done at that time is, why would I sacrifice my mother when I could sacrifice Dr. York? Why would I sacrifice my brother or sister when I could sacrifice Dr. York? And this is why when you look in the case at a certain point, you see many people did affidavits or recantments and things of that nature, because many of them state that they didn't know it was going to go this far. They didn't know he was going to be sentenced to life. They didn't know that all of these charges they didn't know it was going to blow up this big, because a lot of them were children from the community. A lot of them did have love for Dr. York. It's just they was put in a tight situation where they had no choice. I yield.
Okay, I got a quick question. Did Dr. York have a child by Habia Washington? And how old was she when she gave birth?
Yes, Dr. York did have a child by Habiba Washington, and she was between the ages of 17 and 18 by the time that she gave birth. That's something that we address often as well. And when you look at the docket in Dr. York's case, actually the courts ruled that he was within legal bounds of that relationship, because one, her father gave her to him as of legal consent, and she was of the age of legal consent. So within them being within the legal bounds of their relationships in the state of New York, that wasn't considered against the law. The reason that they used Habiba Washington in the case is because Habiba Washington was said to be the one to deal with the money transfer, and she was the one that made all of the deposits into the bank. So what they did was they was trying to use her to say that Dr. York was using her to structure transactions by telling her to deposit less than $10,000. So they used her in that regard. But what they did was they bundled it all together to say, oh, she's claiming that she was a victim of child molestation as well. But when you look at the docket, they didn't use her as a victim of child molestation. They used her to say that she was the one that was being used to make these transactions.
Is her anglicized name Abigail?
Yes, that's the same person.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
And let me add this, because what the brother mentioned something important, because how did the RICO come about is the question. Because the point is, in order for there to be a RICO charge, there has to be a crime in which someone profited. There was none. The RICO was brought in, one, because of as the brother mentioned, what they call money structure. And this is something that even many people testify on the stand that Dr. York never told anyone to structure money. So basically what it is that if you make deposits in the bank over $10,000, you'd have to file stuff with the federal government. So certain people structure money to avoid that filing. And so there were several individuals or people in the case who didn't want to file those paperwork, so they structured on their own, not with the consent of Dr. York. And it was only like 4 or 5 transactions that literally they threw it. This is where they get the RICO from. You follow? So the RICO, and so what they had to do is say that our whole entire organization was created for the purpose of assaulting children, which was ridiculous.
Okay.
And so this is where the RICO comes in.
Hey, chat room is going down right now. Make sure y'all hit that super chat if y'all have any questions. We have brothers and the sisters here. If you have a question, I mean, they're going into depth. We answering questions that have never been asked before and going into the deepness of Dr. York right now.
You know, we have a Rasul Allah 7 in the Zoom.
I see him. Rasul in the building.
Can you address some of the complaints, and even Dr. York himself? I've heard him from his own mouth say how there were very horrific conditions and that they should just really look at it as character building. People saying that they were very malnourished. There were very bad living conditions. And that was, you know, an issue. Can you talk to us about why, and since you were there, how that took place and how was that justified by him?
I can address some of that. I was a guest on the land. And one thing you have to understand about Tamaray, the intention of that land was for individual families to be able to move up and live on the property. Because of the efforts of Putnam County officials, the zoning battles that went on and on, we weren't able to properly zone the property residential. So that limited the housing that could be provided. On my time on the land, the people who resided or were guests in those homes were responsible for their homes. So if they were in disrepair, it was because the people residing in those homes did not maintain those homes. If you were to ever see any type of conditions, that is something that is the result of neglect by the people in those homes. Part of the reason the homes got worn out is because people still wanted to assist with the development of the land, volunteering on the land, the eventual plan to develop the land into an Egyptian theme park. So there were guests and volunteers who stayed on the land. But again, if you have people staying and we're not allowed to properly permit our homes and have enough room to live, there's going to be substantial wear and tear on those buildings. That has nothing to do with Dr. York. If you're maintaining a home, even if you're on someone else's property, your home is your responsibility. So that can't be attributed to him.
But what about him actually speaking, saying he endorsed the harsh conditions? He said, quote, yeah, so what, there's rats. So what, you have to sleep on the ground, the floor. And he said, and he bragged about walking his members around New York for miles and miles without even food, and a group of grown men sharing one bowl of soup. This is from his mouth. Can you talk to us about that type of character as a leader, aside from all the child molestation allegations? What kind of leader would brag about starving his loyal followers and then make a joke like, and if you want, I'll splurge and throw in some coleslaw for a group of grown men? Can you, grown men who are working and making money for him, can you please talk about that character of Dr. York?
If I may interject real quick on, because what you're talking about at that time was the early ages of Ansar, when the brothers used to walk, and these stories that you're saying, I actually heard. I've heard the specific story, but it's like a group of brothers talking, and while the group of brothers are talking, you have a person that's letting you know that, okay, yeah, it's hard now, but through this hardship, it's going to get better. So what? You got to do X, Y, and Z to get there. But because the story has been embellished and it went from one ear to another ear over decades, it became a horror story. But what you're talking about at that time, you're talking about a person that started had a vision with pamphlets about giving Africans in America a way out of what was going on during the late 60s and 70s, which started with pamphlets, and he started by himself. So he went from him by himself to Abby Yaya and a couple of other people. And these couple of other people, then you had people that would come to the teachings and that was immersed to the teachings and that wanted to be a part of the teachings. And you had a lot of people that fell away because of how hard it was. And because we went from 0 buildings to a whole community, and then that community was what was given a key to the city or accommodation for cleaning up Brooklyn. Because Brooklyn, when you're talking about Brooklyn, late 70s, 80s, this is crack epidemic. This is early crack. This is, the 50 cents, the real 50 cents. This is the gangsters of that time of New York. And during Bushwick was his Marcy Park projects and these areas where it was really criminal infested, where Dr. York was, that didn't happen. So when you're talking about what about him, how he was talking to his followers, people that was working with him and so forth and so on, it's like a drill sergeant. And I say that for lack of better words, but it's like a drill sergeant talking to a soldier about, suck it up. Let's get to it. You know what I mean? In order to build your morale and character as a person to get to the goal. Because at that early stage of the community, and to see where it went from Catskills to Brooklyn, and from Brooklyn to all the different stores, to the laundromats, to the bookstores, to the mosque, to the pizza store, to all these different buildings, and then from there to Georgia, it was a growth period, and that growth period it was a lot of hardship that took place. So I'm thinking you're taking a conversation that was given to you, and then that got embellished throughout the years, and said, okay, this is what Dr. quoted and said. So I just want to kind of put that in context.
But it wasn't a conversation. I heard him from his mouth saying it, but thank you for addressing it, brother. It wasn't embellished. He literally said, I'm going to give a group of men that I'm going to work all day a cup of soup, and he thought it was funny. And then he said, I don't want, and excuse my language, he said, I don't want any bitch men whining. So I appreciate the love that you have for him, but it wasn't embellished. It's actually a quote from his mouth.
Can I chime in? Can I chime in just for a second? And I apologize. So I want to state that you're actually misquoting that video. I know exactly what you're talking about, and that's not the context in which he said it in. The class that you're referring to is actually a class where he's teaching in 717 or 719 Bushwick Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. And he's referring to how we built this community as a tribe of people, starting as a tents of Kedar, but how it wasn't going to be easy and it takes sacrifice to do things of this nature. And he mentioned how many people didn't want to contribute to that sacrifice. Many people came in and they couldn't deal with the sacrifice, so they left out and they would come back when things were easy. But the context in which he was saying it in is that when you look at the things that he built in the community, when you look even to this day, when you go to Bushwick, Brooklyn, New York, and you talk to the people who've been in these communities for this time, they'll tell you that, oh, when Dr. York was here or when Imam Isa was here, it was like heaven. I hear we go out on the streets and propagate to this day, and we get people tell us all the time that, oh, as soon as you go on Bushwick Avenue, it felt like you was in heaven. You seen everybody walking in white and there was no crime and there wasn't even trash on the floor and it was a pristine area. It was almost impossible to see a place like that in the middle of Brooklyn, New York, when that community was known as the slums. So what he was explaining is, in the context of what he was saying, is that that didn't just happen overnight. It took sacrifice. It took people complaining about rats in Brooklyn, New York. If you live in Brooklyn, New York, you know that's a common thing that everybody deals with in New York. But when you're in a situation where you're trying to build a community, it's times where you have to deal with sacrifice and say, either I'm not going to, and one thing we got to remember, in Brooklyn, New York, these people weren't held captive. People, and you can hear in that same video where someone asks and says, well, Dr. York, I would like to move into the community. I sent the letter that you never responded to, and I want to know if I'm able to move into the community. And he tells him, and I quote, he said, yeah, tell the the people at the front, I said that you can move in. So this was a point in time where people wanted to be a part of the building of this community, and it took sacrifice. Now, when you're talking about him walking from Coney Island all the way to Harlem and to the Bronx, New York, I know exactly what you're referring to there. And that was where he was talking about how, again, take the brothers that was walking with him, these people weren't held captive. He literally says that they were walking from Coney Island all the way to Bronx, New York. If they didn't want to be there, it was simple as going back to their families. It was simple as going back to their homes. These were people who willingly said, I'm going to sacrifice, I'm going to walk with this person that we're now calling the Lamb, or Imam Isa, and we're going to take on this mission together to help spread this information, to help build this community and help build a better world for our people. And did that happen? Yes, because if it didn't happen, he wouldn't have, things like him getting the key to New York City for the cleaning up of Bushwick Avenue wouldn't have happened. The community wouldn't have attracted so many thousands of people if it didn't happen. So when you look at we can talk about the sacrifice. People try to paint it as oh, well, he bragged about it. No, it wasn't a brag. It was giving the brothers and the sisters that went through that sacrifice the credit for what they went through after the community was already built. Because many people would come around and just see this big mosque or see this big community and don't acknowledge the sacrifice that the early people who was dealing with it went through. So that's what Dr. York was referring to in that class.
Okay.
Okay, let's hear his voice right here. I'm playing this right now. Listen to him.
Under what I was teaching you, under the lifestyle that you had to live, you said, I don't know why I gotta live like this. I don't know why I gotta put up with this. You can stand anything now. Any pressure they put you under, you go work with somebody else, and the people working with you want to get you fired. That nigga don't know when he don't stop and take breaks. He don't smoke. He ain't drinking no sodas. Get right? Y'all can outwork any group of people on the planet right now. Because I was building an imaginary pyramid. I was saying sleep on the floor. There's rats in there, so what's wrong with rats? They might bite you. Then don't get bit. There's always somebody that gets bit. Why gotta be you? There's no heat, so there's too much heat. So I subjected y'all to everything that you can go through to make you ready to stand whatever comes against us. Because I don't need, can I speak here? I don't need the bitching men. I really don't need the bitching men, because the devil is going to make up his mind to come after us one day. It's written in the law. He's going to try to climb Mount Zion to destroy us, the Holy Tabernacle. You understand? And I don't need men that are going to break down like little girls. I made brothers walk the streets and pedal, but anybody who knows the beginning know I walked the streets and pedaled. They'll tell you I used to walk them to death. Anybody talk to any old timer, they say that guy is nuts. I'd walk them from Coney Island to the Bronx. I'm not exaggerating. Every day. And on the way back, I'd stop off at a kosher restaurant and say, we're gonna split this bowl of pea soup. Is that true? And take all the money and give it to the sisters. Say, later, we left the sisters there with the money and we took off again. And we walked again from Coney Island to Staten Island to Far Rockaway, out to Hempstead, and all the way back. And on the way back, we stopped.
All right, hold on.
They say, "Can we get something to eat?" I say, "Yeah, we'll get a little soup and a little extra."
May I interject, brother?
Man, they be like, "Yeah." I say, "Give me a little coleslaw."
Napah. Yeah.
Okay, so we're actually very familiar with that audio. As soon as you mentioned the story, sister, I was familiar. That's actually a class that was given in upstate New York in 1992. He has braids going to the back, right? He's standing in a crowd. Sister, that's what you're playing? Okay,
He's
so
joking about starving his members.
Okay, I think that is context and layering onto what was actually said. Now, if anybody is in a situation, please let me finish. Please let me finish. Please let me finish. If you were to describe someone who is very dedicated in college, you would say you stayed up all night. You would say that you didn't eat well. You would say these things that you could paint a narrative of something as extreme as you're saying, but in actuality, it's just a reflection of focus and dedication. So what he's simply saying is these brothers who walked that distance, again, willingly, as my brother said, and had the discipline to not have to constantly feed their bodies, because it's very interesting. If you see something where someone's talking about intermittent fasting, that's not considered torture or starvation. That's something that's very commonly held in this
What about
society.
sleeping on the floor with
Please
rats?
let me finish. Please let me finish.
What
Please let
about
me
sleeping on the
finish.
floor with rats?
I'll address it if
She
you let
don't.
me
She
finish.
don't want to let you finish. She don't want to let you
one at a
finish.
time, one at a time.
I'm
What
sorry,
is your
and I don't.
addressing?
And I don't want to be confrontational, but it's just a level of passion.
Right.
Those of us who participate in building a different future for our children, for our people, those of us who are in the tradition of up to living, giving our lives for our people, you will do what you have to do. You will do what you have to do. And it's a measure of dedication. If you live in New York, it's rats. Okay? This is a reflection of dedication. I think what's concerning is you can take the same picture and create the narrative you choose. So we can look at the same thing. We can look at that video and say, wow, these people were dedicated. Wow, these people sacrificed to create this community, to build something for their children and for their people. Or you can look at the picture and get a totally different extraction. So I would caution, because the way you initially introduced it was not actually the context in which it was being said. And that's what can get dangerous. So
Can I-
those of us who have lived
Can I
on,
let Crumb?
Go ahead.
Hold on,
No, before Crumb
I
goes,
just
I'm
want to
going
add
to
this
speak,
one
and then I
thing,
can
is that
actually leave
also,
the
if you
panel.
notice on
This
that
is what I
recording,
want to
he
say.
states
Yeah.
that
We're talking
we.
about
she's-
a man.
Yeah, she's trying to monopolize the
Yeah, just
conversation.
let it-
Talking about
go
a
ahead.
man. Wait. No, because we've been sitting here. We're talking
But
about a man
Crumb-
who is actually
Go ahead.
in federal prison right now for abuse. And for me
Yeah,
to
you got to at
bring
least
up
let the
him,
host talk.
for me to bring up him actually saying, I starve my members. It's not about dedication. He had control
did
over
she
these
say,
people.
did he actually say starve, sister?
He
What
said,
did
No,
he
she-
I give a
actually
bowl
say?
of soup to men
That
who
girl
walk
reaching.
10 hours, a mile.
Yeah,
Hold on, no,
that's
let
a
me.
reach.
And if that's
She,
okay
yeah,
with
she
everybody,
reaching her butt off.
why is he so disruptive though? It's not that serious.
No, I mean, you're trying to
If you wanna
monopolize
have
the
a fight on
conversation.
this, the people
You're
Can I
trying to
are
just
very
add
monopolize
this
the
one?
conversation.
Just
You
one.
won't even let
people
the
are very
host speak.
graceful. Crumb, you have a chip on your shoulder. She's very graceful to answer it, and it's very. They said we could ask whatever we want. I want to bring this into context because let me say this: this isn't a group of just dedicated people. There are hundreds of people who have accused him of abuse. So when we look at him talking about actual starvation,
Wait a minute.
people sleeping on the floor
Hundreds,
with
that's
rats.
incorrect
No,
Hold on, wait a
ma'am.
minute.
information,
You
sister.
hold on, wait a minute.
Hundreds of
This is
people, that's
promise
inaccurate.
I'll hand it over to you. You've had a lot of time.
But we just need to
Stop
correct you, because you said something
saying-
incorrect. It's
Sis,
not
you
100.
can correct me
Yeah.
after I'm done. He says, I didn't feed them properly because I'm trying to make them not bitches. Now he has control over these people. It's not just about leaving. When you're in a cult, you have a lot of people have control over your minds and your lives. Now, if you want to say, oh, it's because of discipline, that this man admits that he starved people and that they slept on floor with rats, that's fine. But we're looking at issues of someone who's in prison right now for abuse.
Hey.
And we hear from his own mouth saying, I starved my members. They're bitches if they get hungry. They're children and women if they get hungry. They're not real men. And that's the issue here. So we can look at it from that perspective, or we could pretend that it was just somebody giving a speech, a coach speech. You don't starve men when they're working for you.
Okay.
That's just normal, understood behavior. Why would I, as a leader, starve people who are doing something for me and dedicated to me? That's not discipline. That's abuse. Now I'll mute out.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me just say this. Let me just make this one thing real quick, right? Is one thing we have to be clear is because you're painting a narrative that's misinformation. When you listen to the recording, he clearly states that he was also in work with them. So you're saying that why was he starving these men that was working with him? He says that we took off and we only split a bowl of pea soup and we did this and we did that. He never says that I had them doing this or he was going a part of these things as well. He was walking from Coney Island to the Bronx as well. He was only eating a bowl of split pea soup as well. He was splitting it between all of these men as well. So when you're trying to paint the narrative, you got to make sure that you listen to the complete context of the conversation and not take the parts and the bits and pieces that you want to take out of it and then try to paint a narrative based off of what you want it to, what you want it to seem like. If you listen to the recording, it clearly says, talks about them taking the sacrifice and him being included in that. He never states anything about anybody working for him or why would a leader treat his workers like this? No, if he was treating his workers like that, then he was treating himself like that because he states that he was doing the same things that they were doing.
Come on.
right?
He chose to do that, though. You know, I want to say this. I'm the only person on the panel who's not
And
soft
they chose to do it.
Dr.
They
York.
weren't. They didn't do that by force.
Yeah, if people love Dr. York, that's fine. But the brother said, you know, we're not scared. We're going to take, you know, I think I've been very graceful because my point of view, like very many other people, is that Dr. York is in prison because he belongs in prison. But I want to be very respectful and listen. When I bring up points and I'm interrupted, it's my show. I have an ego. Crumb has been attacking. I'm just trying to find out.
I haven't been attacking. I'm just trying to balance the conversation.
Listen, hold on, listen.
Why is it that
I want to say something.
People, I'm representing millions of people around the world who look at Dr. York and say, well, he's obviously guilty. So I'm sitting here with respect, but I'm saying I respect you. So when I say something controversial, it's like, oh, Napah, she's this. No, I'm asking you, why did he do this? And then since we're going to take the gloves off with Crumb, can you talk to us about his statutory rape conviction where he served 3 years in jail for being 19 and having sex with a 13-year-old girl way before he even was Dr. York? Talk about that too. I'll mute out and let Crumb throw his little temper tantrum since he's so upset about me asking these tough questions.
Temper tantrum?
Wait a minute. Well,
I think, now that you want a name call.
Let's keep it respectful. For all parties, let's keep it respectful and let's deal with this with some class. Like we got some type of class.
Yeah, I don't. Nah, we'll address that. We'll address what you're talking about in the 60s. That's fine, right? And so one of the things, right, is that I think that it is very misleading on what you're doing, as so much as you're giving somebody mindset who appears to be communicating with you, right, about disgruntledness, right? And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be a warrior for, you know, people of innocence, right? And obviously your point of view is has been tainted, right, to a degree, right? Because even what you said, if you read the transcripts in volume 1 on 1963, they said that they couldn't bring up that case because they was trying to get him on first offenders, right? And he did probation, if you actually looked it up on the record. So I think that what we should do, right, Killah Mike, right, since we've been in front, let's make sure that Killah Priest, I apologize. Killah Priest killing the mic, right? Yo, this is what was about to happen. This was about to happen.
That's my brother right
there. We gotta ask,
we
gotta ask her, show some of the evidence of what she's saying, because she said hundreds of people, but we could show the list of the people who they claim is the victim. So I want to make sure that we're staying in the perimeters, because some of us actually lived in the house with Dr. York when he was Imam Isa and when he was Dr. York. So if she wanna go into those things, I want to know where's her source, so we can make sure that the things that she's saying out of her mouth can be, you can show it like we can show on video. Like we can go to pictures in the 60s and the 70s and show the influence of the effect of what Dr. York had on the community. We can actually go to the arrest records, right, of what she claimed to be. But I want to see where she's getting her information from, so we can make sure that we're on the same page if we're talking about facts and not fiction, right? Because according to volume 1 of the transcripts, right, during the trial is what I'm talking about, meaning January of 2004, right, that was thrown out, right, in volume 1 before you even got to volume 2, where people even came and they put the whoever allegedly said that something happened or went on the stand against Dr. York. So, and as it pertains to rats and stuff like that, let me ask you something, right? The sister, right? The Napah Shadah. You ever heard of hood stories before?
I heard Dr. York say that.
I'm asking you a question. No, I didn't ask you that. I asked you a simple question.
That's what I heard.
No, I said, have you ever heard of hood stories?
I heard Dr. York say people were complaining about getting bitten by rats.
She ain't gonna answer your question.
Okay.
No, I'm answering it with facts.
No. Okay.
I'm not gonna. Anyway.
So what I'm saying is this, right? When we're talking about your grandfather or your great grandfather, right? They come from a different time. I'm talking about yours personally. They come from a different time period, right? Where they didn't have the same rights that you have when you're walking up in a store, right? When you're walking up in a mall or when you're in a public place, right? So you have to put your mind in that place. Another thing that you got to put your mind in the place is everybody didn't speak our language. Everything that you're talking about that happened between the 80s all the way up into about 93, maybe 94, was all done in a whole nother language. None of us were speaking English with Dr. York. So a lot of the people who's even talking to you, they don't even speak the language. They can't even tell you how to even transcribe what was even happening because they didn't speak the language that the children spoke, because the children, we spoke a certain type of dialect. So most people wasn't even able to communicate to us except the women who was actually taking care of us. If you knew anything about Dr. York and they said, oh, he was doing this, he was doing that. First of all, right, when we was on the that mansion, upstate New York, Dr. York lived inside a mobile home trailer, if you know anything about Dr. York, right? When we was on those pyramids, that land, when we first got there, he lived in a mobile home trailer, single wide mobile home trailer, right? Anybody who was living on the land who was there would know that. Those who don't, they can't speak for it, right? So I think that it's a misconception of saying, oh, well, Dr. York, because we say he had this, he had that. Them same people who he claimed, right, that they were sacrificing, walking the streets, building the community up, those 70 buildings that Jonathan Mark, the district attorney, put on record that you could look up, right? Those things are worth 100 million right now. Right. You know that, right? So, so the grind was real, and they were able to buy 476 acres of land. And we own an apartment complex downtown Atlanta. And we own real estate in Athens, Georgia. And we own real estate in Macon, Georgia. And they forfeited that because they knew what the community had. So I think that if it's a little bit more, and we have evidence of this, we got evidence of the conspiracy. When you start talking about, you know, a conspiracy, the conspiracy is the actual work, right, of the actual community itself. It's the work of the community. You know what I'm saying? Right. That's the actual conspiracy.
Wow. Thank you.
And also,
Priest, can I ask you a question? I'm sorry, Priest, can you hear me?
I just want to touch this. When
Can you hear me?
the video that you're referring to, where he's talking with the braids and all of that.
Brother, can you give me 1 second? I'm not going to address Priest. I'm talking to you. Can you tell Crumb to, just for the balance of the show, tell him to stop addressing me and talking about me, and we can have a better flow, because the brothers and the sister, they don't mind my questions. So could you just respectfully tell him not to talk to me, not to ad-lib, because he's really trying to mess up the flow. So please do that for him. Okay, go ahead, brother.
Okay, and I just wanted to say this.
She told Priest to tell me what to do. That's bossy.
I could just leave. I could leave. Because I don't need him addressing me.
Nah, we don't want you to leave.
Hold on, Khalees.
Do is leave. We want you ain't even start asking juicy questions yet. Wait a minute. You ain't even get to the juicy questions yet, man.
Because he's not going to sit here
asking questions.
Let me just say this.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that I got to ask the question. Peace to the brothers and the sisters. Priest, is there anything you want to say before I go? Because I can't be on here if he's going to be talking to me and trying to be combative. He's already heard that I beat his friend up, the Moorish guy.
Wait. No, we apologize for him. We don't want you to get off.
Yeah, please stay on the call, sis.
They want you to stay on.
We appreciate the questions. I don't want it to come off as that way. We like the questions. And if the sister does have to go.
No, don't put it this way. They're bringing it that way. I'm sorry.
If the sister does have to go, I will ask that we open the room up for callers or questions to be asked. We encourage the questions. But one thing I do want to say is the only reason I'm speaking on that particular statement, because I'm going on my 30s, right? But I was born and raised in the community. And when you look at that video of Dr. York teaching, and he has the purple shirt on with the braids, there's a man standing right next to him with a cowboy hat on and a purple button-up shirt. That person is my personal father, who was Dr. York's security, who was walking with him and propagating with him and doing all and living in the community with the rats and all of this that you're talking about. If you look at that video, you'll see a man standing with a white cowboy hat on and a purple button-up shirt. That's my personal father, and that's not how he tells the story.
Okay, thank you. So do you want me to leave, or do you want him to get? Do you want to get him in line? Because I don't want to leave if they don't want me to leave. I'm addressing Priest, Killah Priest.
Okay. What I'm going to do is because I haven't talked for a very long time, I'm not going to. I want y'all both to respect one another.
Okay, I'm leaving. Bye. I gotta go, guys. Thank you so much.
Don't leave.
You
Don't
can
leave.
continue.
Madam, don't leave.
Crumb can continue.
Don't
I
leave.
actually
No,
came on
I
you're
because
not
hurt her
saying nothing.
feelings. I hurt her
you didn't
feelings.
hurt my feelings.
No,
You're not
no,
professional.
we want to get the truth out there.
You're ruining
And
the
listen,
stream.
sister,
Hold
let
on,
me tell you
sis.
something.
Child.
Can I just interject? There's a lot of what you're asking are things
Right.
that people ask and want to know. So we
Thank
want you to just raise it to the floor. So we prefer if you stay so we could address
Thank
your
you.
questions, because it's not just for you, it's for all the people who are viewing and listening.
Thank you so much, sister. But see, this man is on here. Priest isn't controlling him. He's talking about she wants to do this and these people are very respectful people. They actually are so respectful. They don't mind when I ask them tough questions, but Crumb is sitting on here like a wounded baby trying to jump in and, oh, she said this and that. Could you control yourself and have some respect for the bill? That's all I'm saying to you. If you want to address me,
You even
fine,
cut
I'm
Killah
ignoring
Priest
you.
off though. What about when you cut Killah Priest
Killah
off? That
Priest
wasn't
and
right.
Yeah,
Killah Priest is the one who
but
told me to
I
ask the
think the
question.
most important thing is that the questions that you asking,
Yes,
right? And
and
they're
Priest
important
asked me to
questions
ask
because
the questions.
yeah,
So don't
and
worry about Killah Priest and me, because he's actually a straight line to me. You're nobody. Okay, Crumb, you're zero.
Wow,
So,
I'm
yes.
nobody.
So now back to the show. Yeah.
Can we
get
have some?
yourself-
Hey, Napah,
so back to the show.
let's have. Listen. Let's do this. Like I said, I'm with it. I'm with it all. I like to have some type of respect amongst each other. We're all grown here, so let's get the information. Is very important.
Don't worry about.
All right.
Yeah, I like the show. I mean, I'm asking tough questions, and the people are okay. It's Crumb who he's upset, but we're not.
Crumb
I'm
didn't-
not going to worry about this, because after the show, Priest and I will be laughing at you, Crumb. Trust and believe. Okay.
well, I'm gonna tell you. I
Who
thought
drives
wait a minute,
9,000 miles
sister,
and loses
Napah,
their job to get on the internet and insult the Rastafarians? We laugh at you. Okay.
Napah,
Trust and believe. Okay,
Napah,
family. Back to the show. I'm sorry.
yeah, we want you to. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't know you started asking the hard questions yet. So
No, brother. I actually, you did great answering the questions. I'm trying to really be unbiased, because those are really strong, like you said, strong allegations.
yeah, it is.
So
But
yeah,
a part of the
appreciate
thing is like, it's more so the character. And if you notice, there's only one family that's doing this. A lot of people say this, a lot of people say that, because we are family, and that's what people don't consider. People don't consider that they did this to a tribe. They consider, like, some of these people, our family, like when he said his father, that's generations. So our fathers were the ones who built it with Dr. It wasn't like a one-man show, how they try to make it seem. It was a time where they had to share bowls of soup. But that's like if you go back to the hood stories. If I ask, right, Killah Priest, right, look, yo, how many hood stories can you give me? I guarantee you he could give me hood story. Like, look, it was a time we had to share this. We had to hit with the noodles. We had to, like, let's stop taking reality. That's like saying, did Jesus Christ live on the planet? And then you ask, did he take a shit? Yeah, he had to take a shit if he had an asshole, you know what I'm saying? So that's the reality of what things are. You might not want to talk about it, but it is the reality of what things are, and so don't be scared to ask your questions, because, it take a good-hearted person to ask those questions, plus you a mother. But what you have to realize is that our mothers are here too, right? The mother that's Marytat, she lived on the land, and it was the mothers that were taking care of the children. In all this case, they say all this, there was only one child that testified, right, at the trial of Dr. York, and his name was Elijah Hibner, and he testified on Dr. York's behalf. That was it. Everybody else was adults and juveniles. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these things, right, come from misconception, because it's about the hype. People don't really care about the actual story. Come on, man. Nobody care about. They just care about, listen, AB, but if you want to did this man was sticking people in their booty hole when they was young? Yes or no? That's what people really want to know. And that's what we want to talk about. And we want to invite those people to shows like this, so they could talk to people like us and people who was actually there. You know what I'm saying? Because remember, you had to speak the language to communicate to the children, because the children spoke a different language. You know what I'm saying? Called, it wasn't, we have multiple different dialects of languages, which you have to realize in our tribe from the 70s all the way up to now. Because Dr. York spoke multiple different languages. He had languages in Spanish. He had books in Spanish. He had books in French. He had books in English. He had books in Arabic. know what I'm saying? People think that this was a situation that was just happening in America. This was a worldwide situation. We was the Nubic Islamic Hebrew. So that means we were the Nubian first. That's Africa. That's the whole Africa, if you know anything about Nubia, Islamic and the Hebrews. So we were a conglomeration of everybody. So of course, there was a lot of heat, like what you was mentioning earlier about all the people who were saying something. Let me tell you this. I want you to think about this, right, Napah? Think about this. Okay, so you said, oh, all these people was coming after Dr. York. And what they say in and around 1988, right, when all the Islamic group and all of them was coming after Dr. York, right? Oh, they coming hard for his neck. They saying he's this, he's that. He's boom, 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 right? But you ever notice, for all these years, you never, ever heard one time, one twinkle time for any of his worst enemies, anything about sexual molestation? Not one time. They did a book rebuttal to the slander, right? We did a book rebuttal to a slander to a book, right, that they did on the Ansar Allah community, and not one thing in that book said anything about a molestation of a child from his worst enemies. So how is it out of somewhere in 2002, this thing pops up, and then the FBI agent says, oh yeah, we just discovered this from Jacob York. Remember, that's on the Discover ID. The Discover ID, Sheriff Seal says on the Discover ID, the main sheriff, right, who was warned against us, right? And so look, I know I can't talk, but I'm gonna talk and show. Look at these newspapers. These are real newspapers, man, right? That was happening during this time. And this is important, right? Because when you look at these newspapers, look at the dates. Look at all the drama that we were going through at the time. Look at the drama we were going through. This is the events that we were doing, that you see the events that we were doing on our land, right? And the things that we were doing on our land and the people that we were bringing out. And we brought out all different type of races. We had all races on our land. We accepted everybody on land. This is our celebration. This is what they hated. They hated the culture. They hated the culture, what we were bringing. We were bringing finance to us. We celebrated. Look at this. This is celebration. This is what they were hating on, right? When you look at this, look, this is before Dr. York. We are not racist, right? These are all the people that was a part of our community, right? This is 1998. Right. And this is stuff that was going out about all the stuff we was going through about the zoning violation and us fighting a 5-year war. Change your heart. This is before Dr. And look, character assassination. Look, 1998. We knew what was going on. Racial legal cloud. This is before Dr. York was locked up. So what we gonna say about this? The tension wasn't growing up with the Putnam County Sheriff. We wasn't going through all this. We were publishing this stuff at the time, right? Making everybody aware. The AGC was publishing this in the land. This is the same sheriff officer that bulldozed our front gate. This same man bulldozed our front gate and sold the land for like 1.5 million. These guys went and then they built a brand new, because look, they knew we was building this. What all the impact was, the plan was denied. They denied this, our residential zoning, because we was building a Busch Garden up there. See, with the board of commissioner, this was going on. This was in a newspaper. Look up this newspaper. You know what I'm saying? You can see it, you can see the records. So this is the stuff that's not really being said. The political tension. Look, racist sheriff in Edenton. This is what was going on in 1999. This was the fight that we was putting out there, right? This is the lost record that nobody really want to talk about on what we were doing, because we were trying to establish the land to be a city. We had 476 acres of land. You had Wesley Snipes, who was trying to buy the land to the left, right? With Amun-Ra Security, which was a worldwide security that do security for everybody. And then what's his name? Stevie Wonder was supposed to buy across the street, and we were supposed to have our 1,000 acres of land, which is how you establish your city in the state of Georgia. You can become incorporated. Like right now, you got the city of Stone Mountain. Anybody know, I mean, Stone Mountain, not Stone Mountain, but Stonecrest. Remember, Stonecrest wasn't a city up until about 8 years ago, right? They just incorporated as being the city. You know what I'm saying? So within the county of DeKalb County. So this is the stuff that's going on. Look at this. This was all of our Native American. We've been saying we was chiefs. Way before that, we've been saying that we showing our blood lineage and what we were doing. But these are the stories that wasn't said before the arrest. Look, these were people who we were fighting against, right? In the local, with the local sheriff. This before any sexual molestation or anything like that. Why does all this exist? And look at all these newspapers. This is the reality of what it is. Look at Tyrone Brooks, a true Nuwaubian. Y'all know who Tyrone Brooks is? He was the House of Representatives. You know what I'm saying? He's one of the people who first came and testified on Dr. York's behalf the day after, during the arraignment. You can look up on the documents, this Tyrone Brooks, right? So the people could say what they want, but these people was involved much before, right, May 8th, 2002. And as you see, as the tension grow, look what happened. Our Grand Master, Eli Richardson, passes away from the same racist people in Putnam County from a sponge being left that killed him. And we sued them for millions of dollars and we won that case. So they got mad and they had to try to get the money a different type of way. You know what I'm saying? They had to get the money a different type of way. So the tension kept growing. You know what I'm saying? The tension kept continuing to grow, you know, and they started messing with us. That's the reality of what it was, because they knew that we was coming from a New York mindset. Y'all see this right here? We was coming from a New York mindset. Look, this was going on. Look, how is it that Dr. York goes from, right, Atlanta, greatest preachers, right, and Georgia's informers, as no, I've been doing something new in Athens, Georgia. He right here on the front cover to a molester. What the, how does that happen? Hey, Killah Priest, tell me how you go from that newspaper, right, to these newspapers showing that we grow in Georgia, right, to look, we in all these editions. These ain't our newspapers. Look,
Right.
this look, 50
Right.
most influential black men in Georgia. Look at the date, October 2000. This is in 159 counties in Georgia. This is what they were scared of, because we were putting all these officials in position. That was the fear. The fear was we had Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson coming down to the land dealing with this issue with the county. That's what they're hiding. That's what they scared of. Look, this dude was over the NCAAP. Look, Alexander Smith, he was the head. He was with us. This is before May 8, 2002, before they came in. So they saw that, oh, this man, Dr. York, got influence. That's why they try to get him on the RICO, because RICO is racketeering influence. They was more concerned of, oh, he changing, he putting black Democrats up in position. We getting control of the votes and we voting certain people out. And this sheriff been there for 30 years, even to this day. The sheriff been in there 30 years to right now. The same sheriff's in it. So how I come to all this into May 8th? Why? Because we was building this. They were scared of this. So we teaching people our culture. You know what I'm saying? We had tours on the land. We had all the African flags up, right? We had recording studios, right? We had restaurants. We had different things on the land. We were protected by the sisters first. So anybody talking about some man was coming next to some children, that's a lie, man. That's like hypocrisy, man. That's like, we laugh about that, say, wow, this story really grew some legs, man. But I'll let the sister ask any more questions that she want to ask. You know, I'll let her ask the questions.
May I interject something before the sister had another question just on the issue of the land itself? I think people underestimate the role of the land itself and the land grab with the land in this case and the role of it. When you look at the officials that Sanan Em Labab was just talking about in Eatonton, the land itself was targeted. If you know anything about the area around the land, there's something called Reynolds Plantation. It used to be owned at the time all this was taking place by Mercer Reynolds of the Reynolds family, the Foyle and that family. He was a huge Bush supporter. So a lot of when all of this went down with May 8th, with the raid, was during and leading up through the Bush administration. Reynolds Plantation wanted the land that we were on. One thing that we're always taught is when you're dealing with the powers that be, so to speak, and particularly the corrupt officials down there in Eatonton, who felt a black man owning land was a problem because his freckles are too close, they had plans for that land. And they were going to go to any length to get that land. So when you have President Bush, one of his main supporters on Reynolds Plantation, which is in that same corridor of Tamaray, this is how far the roots of this conspiracy goes, going back to what Sister Napah Shadah was asking at the beginning. So that's part of the reason. Also, when you look at the Eatonton-Putnam County Comprehensive Plan, prior to seizing the land, Eatonton was already trying to push any African-American people out of that unincorporated area, because there's the city of Eatonton, but we were in Putnam County with Tamaray. So they were already trying to push any African-Americans out of that land so they could seize it. And here you have 476 acres owned by 9 melanated landowners, because at the time everything happened with the seizure of the land, Dr. York was not an owner of the land. which puts the question, why was the land seized if they're going after Dr. York, but there are 9 landowners? So they were trying to push African Americans out and reserve the area where we were on 404 Shady Dale Road for white residents. So all that you're seeing that we were doing, that Sanan Em Labab was showing, you have these corrupt county officials that did not want that to happen, not just because it was for the elevation and culture of Black people, but because they were going for that land. When you look at having that swath of land, if the original plan had gone down, we were not blocked by zoning, and Nawapians from all over the world, all over the US, all over the world, moved down, we would have been able to move in numbers that we could actually form our own city. So we could have either pushed the officials already in Eatonton out, and there's a whole web of corruption with them that we could get into that could be its own show, or we could have the sufficient numbers to actually have a city or a town. When you look at what's needed for a town, if you have 5,000 inhabitants in, if you put it in grids, and there's at least 300 inhabitants per every square kilometer, you could form a town. And being that we had 30,000 people coming to our Savior's Day celebration alone in 1997, not counting the people that didn't come, we were in a position to do what you now see our people doing now, which is creating our own Black town. That was something that could have happened and was in the works in the late 90s had we not encountered the conspiracy against Dr. York that preceded everything that happened with the case that we're talking about this evening. So it's a lot of moving parts to the conspiracy, and there's a lot of different agendas at play. So that is another piece of why this happened. So it's the perfect storm between the agenda of these corrupt officials in Putnam County and the disgruntled members who, again, were pushed out of the community because they wanted to bring devilishment, drinking, whoring, smoking, things that we do not engage in as a community that were not allowed. They could not run their devilishment there. And in being pushed out, they developed their own resentments and vendettas, and led by Jake York and Nicole Ada Lopez, who, again, we have evidence that she was engaging in sexual relations with a 14-year-old when she was 25 as the true molester. The perfect storm of those disgruntled members and wrongdoers and these corrupt officials collaborated for the conspiracy that took place. I yield.
And let me just add this to context as well. During that time period, whenever President Bush visited Georgia, he stayed on Reynolds Plantation. And add more context, George Bush is the one who appointed Judge Ashley C. Royal in the 11th Circuit. He was the one who appointed him, and he was the one who presided over the case of Dr. York. So there definitely was a conspiracy in terms of trying to stop what Dr. York is doing and to take the land. I yield.
Okay, we got some super chats we're gonna go to. AD.
Can I add one more thing just before we get to that?
Okay.
The last thing I just want to add is that, and I want to debunk this because every time we bring up the Dr. York case, somehow we always get into talking about child molestation. And I want to put on record that when you look up on Dr. York's docket, which as you see right here on this screen, when you look at the United States codes, don't believe me, y'all can go look them up and check it out. Not one of these codes indicate child molestation. It's all for the Mann Act or RICO. Why is that important? Is because we keep discussing whether he was guilty of molestation or not. The court that even if we're saying, oh, well, he was put in court, so he had to be guilty of something. Whatever you're saying he's guilty of, the court couldn't find him guilty of that. Not one of these codes on here indicate anything dealing with child molestation. What they did was they charged him with the transporting minors across state lines with the intent to do something. Now, why is that wrong? Because you can't charge somebody with the intent to do something unless you have evidence that they've done it or intended to do it. There was no evidence. There was no DNA evidence, no video evidence. That's like you walking into Walmart and then being arrested with the intent to steal, but I don't have no evidence that you stole. I didn't have anything of you picking up any items. I don't find anything on your person or on your body, but then I still sentence you with the intent to steal. This is what we're dealing with in this case, is that people keep saying, oh, well, he was still sentenced with transport. That it doesn't matter if he was sentenced with transport and minors across state lines. because the basis of the conversation, and this is why they had to come in with a superseding indictment to try to cover up what they couldn't prove originally, which was the child molestation. This is why when you look on Dr. York's docket, there's nothing that shows child molestation. When people say, oh, well, he pled guilty to child molestation, he didn't plead guilty to child molestation. He entered into a plea agreement. And like my sister said earlier, it's over 98% of all cases end in a plea agreement. Now, what was that plea agreement? That plea agreement was to the RICO Act and the Mann Act, but that had nothing to do with child molestation, because the child molestation couldn't have been proven, because many of the quote unquote victims, some of them were found to have been to lie on the stand, so they had to be removed off of the stands. Some of their stories didn't corroborate with each other, so they had to remove those. Some of the key witnesses went on and agreed to testify against Dr. York, but when they got on the stand, said the complete opposite of what they said. And all of this stuff is in the transcripts. The issue with Dr. York's case is the transcripts were sealed for so long that many people didn't actually take the time to look into his case to see what took place. And many people are going along with the narrative just out of the dislike of Dr. York. Now, if that's your case, then by all means, you have all rights not to like Dr. York. You don't have to like him. But when we're dealing with the legal system and what's legal and illegal and what happened in his case, we cannot input our own personal feelings of what, oh, I don't like his teachings, because this is what people tend to do, is that when they can't prove his guilty in the legal, when you're looking at documents and court transcripts, they go into his personal being. What he did in his personal, as long as it didn't disobey the law, then that's not the conversation that we're talking about. We're talking about whether he deserved 135 years and whether there was evidence of his guilty or not. Now, when you go into, oh, well, I don't like what he taught, this is why you see so many people on the bandwagon or the hate Dr. York bandwagon, because let's be honest, Dr. York was writing 365 questions for any and everybody who wanted it. And that hurt a lot of people's feelings. So when they seen him go down, a lot of people just jumped on the bandwagon and went with that same narrative. But when you get into the actual facts of the case, there was no DNA evidence in Dr. York's case of his guilty. There was no video evidence. There was nothing actually, like the brother said earlier, is that when you look at the Judge Spivey ruling, they ruled that nothing had ever happened to any of these children. So when you're looking at the people that are pushing this narrative, it's only one family, the Noel family. And the reason that they're involved is because their family was being investigated and is still being investigated now for crimes that they committed at that time. And Tariq Noel, being one of the men of his family, he stuck out there and said, if I'm going to have to take the hit, I'm going to be the main person, I'm going to be the spokesperson, I'm going to be the one to talk about it, because I don't want the heat to come back on my sister or my mother. And in return, Dr. York is spending time in jail for crimes he didn't commit. Yet, in fact, if there was really about child molestation, let's look into these people, because when you look at Dr. York's case, you see that Tariq's sister, Ada Lopez, took an agreement with the government because she was found guilty of molesting. And she actually, there's letters, evidence of her saying she was molesting children. She was 24 years old, 25 years old, having sex with 14-year-olds and 13-year-olds. And she actually entered into certain plea agreements so that she wouldn't get in trouble if she pled guilty or if she accused Dr. York of the things that he did. Now, if it's really about protecting children and child molestation, why isn't nobody looking into these things? Because if it's really about child molestation, Dr. York's in jail already, but these people are still out here and could still be doing these things. It's said there's videos of Dr. York's, one of his sons, there's videos of other victims saying that Jacob York molested them in Brooklyn, New York. If it's really about protecting children, why aren't we looking into Jacob York and seeing whether he's still molesting children or not? Why aren't we looking into Ada and Tariq and any of these other people that was accused of child molestation to see if they're still doing these things or not? If it's really about protecting the children, or is it just because we hate Dr. York and we don't like what he was teaching and we don't like what he stood for, so we're gonna stand on this bandwagon? I yield.
And one more note about Tariq Noel. If you look at, there was a motion to present new evidence in the trial. You will also see a handwritten letter by Tariq Noel denying that these allegations happened. So I think we can't underestimate, or one thing I want to elevate from what the brother Nabab just said, the fact that the transcripts are sealed, there's so much that you would see in the transcripts that would debunk what people are saying. So of course, Dr. York is not, did not plead to molestation. However, in the public mind and the public eye, once that's introduced, it's there. So I just want to offer a little more that is seen in the transcripts for those who still have that floating around. So if you look at Dr. Frederick Orrin Bright, he was one of the expert witnesses for the defense. And he has a video affidavit talking about something called consistent inconsistencies in the case. So he is not only a practicing OBGYN, he is trained to detect any indication of molestation. And he does a lengthy affidavit, and he testified in the trial that he saw the following things. One, no DNA evidence, no forensic evidence. Usually if something happens within 72 hours, there would be some forensic evidence. That doesn't exist. There was no pregnancy amongst the alleged victims, even though there was a high number of allegations and frequencies of acts. As we opened up this show with, we did calculations of the allegations during the trial and the transcripts. And for many of these individuals, again, it was coming out to 7,900, 1,700, 900, these ridiculous numbers, but there's no pregnancies. There's no hospital records. Had this occurred to the magnitude and level that these alleged people put out, there would have been hospital records because they would have had injuries. That doesn't exist. In these statements, there are no specific timeframes. There is no actual video evidence or recorded evidence of the alleged victims saying these things happen. Again, all there are third-party statements taken by investigators about what they said happened. So this is a hearsay case. And what is tricky, again, we are very sensitive to those who may have been victimized by molestation, is the nature of the law around molestation is a double-edged sword. There was an allowance of hearsay in this case without any physical evidence. And that's what's dangerous about these cases, is the introduction of hearsay. So when you're hearing these things, there's no record that that actually happened. There's no history of any kind of contact that medical examiners use to determine anything could have happened. There's a huge gap between the allegations and the time of investigation. There was no opportunity because nothing happened, and there are no hospital records because nothing happened. There's no records that examiners could evaluate what happened in the acute stages of these allegations. So basically, we're in a situation where people could just say something happened, how they recount it, because there's no video evidence, there's no audio evidence, and then there's no accountability. So the investigators can say, oh, this happened. And then once you find an inconsistency of what was said, they can just say, oh, we just recorded it wrong. There's no way to actually hold them accountable. There's no way for a defendant to actually impeach testimony because there's no actual records of any of these things happening. And it's very odd with a case of this magnitude to have no actual record, no video, no audio for a case of this magnitude. I mean, we all watch the first 48, we watch TV. We see somebody do a crime of much lesser degree, and there's some kind of video evidence, there's some kind of videotape confession. But all this case was based on is secondhand investigative notes from federal and state investigators. So again, if something's wrong, they could just be like, oh, I wrote it down wrong. So there's a significant amount of information that was introduced in this case that actually could not be verified. It is all based on hearsay. So how can a jury find someone guilty beyond a reasonable doubt when the whole case is built on reasonable doubt? With these allegations, there should be some kind of medical history of injuries to the general intestinal tract. These people are alleging there were injuries to the point of bleeding. Again, a level of sensationalism that is not backed up by any facts. If any of that had happened, there would be some kind of medical record of visiting a hospital, or even a testimony they attempted to go to the hospital. So again, these are the things that people would see if they could see the transcripts.
So there's
no evidence to support these allegations. I'm sorry, brother. I yield.
Okay. So there was no, because there was they said that he had herpes, right? And that the children had herpes too, or some type of disease that they had, that he had. What do you say about that?
They had diseases that he did not have.
Okay. All right.
We got a question here from Mr. Miragi. He says, was he an enemy of the Jewish media mob? If so, you can't believe the information.
To answer that one, we actually have records to show what he had and the herpes and all of that. And if you give me a second, I can pull that up. And two, like we said, Dr. York, based off of his teachings, he made a lot of friends and he made a lot of enemies. If you know anything about Dr. York's teachings, you know that he wrote a series of book called 360 Questions. And in those series, it was 360 questions to ask a Christian that upset a lot of Christians. It was 360 questions to ask Sunni Islam that upset a lot of Muslims. And it was 360 questions to ask the Hebrew Israelites or the Jews, and that upset a lot of them. So yes, and because we as Nuwapians, we went through phases where we were one, Muslim, Hebrews, Christians, Native Americans, and all of those different things to tie our people into those different cultures. A lot of those religious beliefs didn't take easy to that, especially the European or the Caucasians, because they felt like, who were we to say Muhammad was a black man? Who were we to say that Jesus was a black man? Who are we to say that we the real Israelites or we the real Hebrews? And that upset a lot of people. And a lot of people had hate and gripes towards Dr. York because of that. Even to the point where there was assassination attempts on him in New York City, where another brother actually got stabbed in the attempt to, well, one of the security guards got stabbed in the attempt to stop an attacker from stabbing Dr. York.
Wow. Okay. We have so moving right on to that's it for the super chats. Okay. Man. Though, I mean, we're no judge. This is opinions. This is facts also, paperwork. But we all hear, we all see, we all know the story now. If we didn't know the story, we know the story. Never been told from your side. And for a collective to get together and build on the intellectual level, because we're talking about very sensitive subjects and topics. So it's really deep. It gets deep. It gets touchy. It gets real touchy, and a lot of emotions get involved. But we, of the knowledge, know that we got to rise above the emotional point and come to some point of a solution. We joined together. We came together to build. First of all, don't stop that super chats. Come here, I got a question. But we came together to build, and I hope that you got your words out, and we looking at it from the perspective of the gods, and then Napah came, and it's good. This is what it's about. It's about clashing information. It is about challenging each other. It's about challenging each other on, because it's sensitive, man. It's touchy. It's real deep. But we have to move on. We have to move on to the next subjects and stuff like that. It was great that y'all came through. Is there anything that y'all want to say on closing?
Real quick, if I may, Killah Priest, again, thank you for the platform.
Right.
And I'm sure the brothers and sisters also have a closing words.
Right.
What I wanted to say is this: Napah, you did great. I love it because coming from that mindset, that's the mindset of the general public of certain things that they heard and certain things that they took out of context throughout the years. When
Frozen time. But he's still, no, he bring him back. Are we good? Yeah. The brother's speaking from Africa too. Let him know where you at.
Breaking down the whole thing about, I ain't got nothing to do with that. If I had anything to do with it, I would have been brought up on the stand, and they would have asked me questions. And he was so convicted in what he was saying, And that became that became a lineup for him for like 5 to 10 years, 15 years even. So now when the Discovery ID documentary came out, and they broke down the fact that he was the one that created this situation, it made everybody be like, those within the tribe like, see, he was the one that did it. But what happens is now that trip that went to Florida, that's where a lot of the crimes that was given to Dr. York took place. Why? Because he transported those. There were minors with him going to Florida on that Florida trip. Because you have to remember, those minors, there was some people that was there that was not of age, right? And they went there, had all type of illicit acts took place and things of that nature, while they was trying to conjure up their story to bring to what is it called, as a conspiracy to bring on Dr. York. So that's where, and then they talked about that. What about Florida? You know what I mean? And then when they talked about Florida, speaking about Orlando, Florida, specifically with Disney World, they said, nah, because that money right there is too big to bring it to Disney World. But when it comes to Jacob, a lot of people don't think about Jacob, but Jacob himself, he convicted himself by saying he had nothing to do with it. Adrian Patrick, the attorney, said, well, I could show motive if you allow me to bring Jacob York on the stand. And the judge said, no, he ain't got nothing to do with it. It's on the record. So why would the judge say, no, he has nothing to do with it? And then years later, you find out that he was the one that brought it to the sheriff, which shows that the sheriff already knew, which shows that the judge already knew, because the sheriff and the judge, they in correspondence coming from Putnam County, right? And then it gets really deep. But I'm glad that you allowed us to have this platform to speak on this intellectual level, to show the paperwork. It's all about the paperwork. You follow what I'm saying? When you go to jail, cats want to see your paperwork. What's your paperwork looking like? You follow what I'm saying? So now that we're able to go through these different points of the paperwork, the next thing that we need to do is to be able to change the mindset of the people of what really happened and who are the real child molesters, right? Tariq Noel, why is he going so hard? Because of the fact that his sister is the one that actually got caught. And once she got caught, they're like, yo, you showed evidence that she was sleeping with this boy. This boy was 14 years old, 13 years old. And she's like, all right, cool. I'm going to go against Dr. York because you got me red-handed. You got my hand in the cookie jar. So yeah, I'm going to side with y'all, right? Okay, another key point. Habiba Washington, she made a whole video breaking down the whole conspiracy. Everybody forgets about that. Everybody overlooks the video for whatever reason, right? Here go another point. Issa, as my brother broke down earlier, they took him from everybody. So nobody was able to get to him to tell him what to say or what not to say, right? And then when they took him, right, when he went to court, he said, when everybody, like, now you have to imagine, put your mind in the court that day. Everybody thinking that he's going to say what they want him to say, as far as the prosecutor. And when he gets to speak, he said, nah, I don't know what y'all talking about. These people been telling me something happened to me and nothing happened to me, and they held me. And it just went flip. It just flipped on them, right? Unknown to them, it just flipped on them, right? So my point is, these key points, right, it's like amnesia we have. These key points, we won't look at these key points, but through your platform, I really do appreciate you allowing us to drop these key points right there, because Dr.
Gotta come back.
is 78 years old right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's
How old is he?
78 years old right now. He's been 20 years. 78. He's been there for 20 years. You follow what I'm saying? And it's like, you know, murderers been people that killed people been released after being charged for murder. They've been released less than 20 years, or if not 20 years. You follow what I'm saying? This is like the park, the New York Park 5 type situation. So it's time for Dr. to come home, you know. But I yield at that point. But Napah, you did great, and I hope. You know, you did great, and we need to be able to answer these hard questions, because these are the hard questions that got people thinking about Dr. York a certain way, when he's sitting in there as a 78-year-old man and innocent. I yield.
Thank you, brother.
Okay.
And can I have, I just want to close out with one thing. As you all can see on this screen here, and it's just going to take a couple of minutes, not to be long-winded. As you all can see right here on this screen, it says, Mr. York is guilty of operating a criminal enterprise. And I hope, ladies and gentlemen, that you will not be swayed by the defense of theme and theories put to you by Mr. York. You know, they make this big deal out of Jacob York, ladies and gentlemen. Jacob York wasn't a defense witness, mind you. This is the court speaking as the last word. After we had our say, they let the defense have the prosecutor have the last word. And this is what the prosecutor is saying. It says Jacob York wasn't a defense witness because we were asking, why didn't y'all allow us to bring Jacob York in to cross-examine him so that we can prove that he was behind this whole conspiracy theory? They kept blocking any motion for us to subpoena Jacob York into court. And we was asking why. So they're saying that we keep creating this big theory that Jacob York has something to do with it. It says Jacob York wasn't a defense witness. They make this big deal out of this alleged conspiracy, ladies and gentlemen, that never happened. You heard secondhand and third-hand accounts about it happening, but you didn't hear direct evidence from Jacob York that it happened. You never saw him and you never heard from him. And according to Mr. York's daughter, Jacob York just, lo and behold, happens to be the only child that York has that happens to hate him. Now, I'm saying that to say this. I'm going to share this for a second. Can you see it? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see, brother.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Myself.
can you hear that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Karima, Nicole, Farah, Noor Rashid, and some other driver. I don't remember his name. And Jacob brought up the conversation again. How he thinks that we should really go to the government with a story about his father. Anything that we didn't like in the community, we should go because his father needed to be in jail. His father did not do good things. He was not happy with his father, and he really felt that a case should be brought up against his father. He really felt that his father should be put away for life, that he did not deserve to live. Jacob had a conversation with me again, and he told me that there were certain children that did go to the FBI about different things with myself, and that there was no way I would be able to prove that it didn't happen. The only way I can make any good of it is to go to the FBI with a story, seek immunity, and just go from there. I still told Jacob that I was not interested in doing that there was nothing that I've witnessed or nothing that I've known that was going on. But Jacob believed that because the FBI knew who I was and because they were told things about me, that it was best that I go to them and talk to them and see what's up. I went to the FBI the following day.
The turning point for the investigation comes when
Hold on.
gets a call from Dwight.
Wait a minute. Just can't skip. Was there any guns on her?
Nah, that was her regular recantment. She made that video after the whole trial because she was saying that she felt bad for what she did. So this is her own personal recantment video. But what this is a documentary. What you're looking at is a documentary from the Discover ID. Discover ID did a documentary on us, and they're explaining how this whole situation happened. And the reason I'm showing this video is because she was one of the main witnesses, who was Habiba Washington. She claims that it started by way of Jacob York as well. And like I said, when you look at
so why didn't Jacob York get in trouble?
With what? What do you mean?
Like, if she's admitting that she was coached into doing that, why didn't the feds come down, or the feds or the regular cops come down on Jacob?
Because Jacob was the key person behind the whole conspiracy. If they would have brought him in, then it would have proved that it was a conspiracy, and it would have proved that he had ties to every last one of the quote unquote victims. So what they had to do is keep him out of it so that they can make it look like all the victims had their own personal agendas, because then it would have showed that they all went to a trip in South Beach together. It would have showed that they all stayed at a hotel together. It would have showed that they was all down there around the same time. And this is why, if you look at, there's a video of Dr. York's attorney on YouTube, explaining why he was trying to get them to bring Jacob York in. He said that I didn't want to bring Jacob York in as my witness because I know he would have said a lot of negative things, but they didn't want to bring him in because if they would have brought him in, I would have been able to cross-examine him and prove that he was the key person behind the whole conspiracy. And like I said, right before I close out, I just want to show this last part because this part is Sheriff Howard Richard Seals, who has nothing with us, who we can't control. We can't, if that's the narrative that people want to paint, we don't got no control over what he says. And he admits that this whole case started when Jacob York came to him. So I'm gonna press play.
Your son, Jacob, who'd left the cult a decade earlier.
Jacob, they called Jacob at first. If I sat in the car.
And what you hear now is her explaining. She's explained because remember, she mentioned that she went to the office, to the FBI office with Jacob York. This is a video in her recantment. Like I said, you can look this video up on YouTube, Habiba Washington, Dr. Malachi Z. York. You'll see it. She's explaining what happened when he brought her there to meet with the FBI.
Jacob talked with them. I don't know what the conversation was about because I wasn't in the room and I wasn't told what the conversation was about. But Jacob went up there and he talked to them. They called me up. I stated my name. I stated who I was. They asked me about different children. They asked me about different date.
And I think we pretty much get the point. The last thing I want to touch on is this is just gonna be 2 seconds.
Yeah, because we got to do a part 2, man. We got to bring this back, man. Because I'm like, what in the planet risk is going on here?
Putting the planet risk. I want y'all to hear Jacob. This is Jacob himself saying that he had nothing to do with the case.
Different people that left the community. He wanted us to bring a case against his father.
I think if I was that instrumental in the case, I would have been on the stand.
And it was myself, Karima, Nicole, Farah, Noah Rashid, and some other driver. I don't.
Okay, and I'm gonna leave it there. It's more to it, but I don't want to take up too much time. I just wanted to end my piece off with that. Dr. Malachi Z. York is innocent. He was incarcerated for crimes he didn't commit. And we're on a mission to help bring that truth out. We're in a day and time where, like the brother said, it's been 20 years already. He spent too much time in there for things that these people who actually did commit these crimes, these people who actually did conspire because they seen a Black nation of people in Atlanta, Georgia, building a nation, building our own economic system, building our own businesses, building our own community, and to eventually build our own world. And there was people, mainly the government of Georgia, who took these people like the sister that you see here, Habiba Washington, and they forced her to do things and to testify against Dr. Malachi Z. York. So I just want to end off with that, and I yield.
No doubt.
I wanted to add something to what my brother just shared. When you look into the transcripts, just to testify to the potency of the conspiracy, the witnesses that were present for that South Beach trip and were witnesses for the conspiracy were actually blocked. One was not allowed to testify at all. And we have video affidavits of the South Beach conspiracy. The 2 who did testify were testified when the jury was not present. So the jury was not able to consider the evidence of the South Beach conspiracy from firsthand people who said they were approached to conspire against Dr. York, that all they had to do was have an interview with the FBI and be a part of this conspiracy. The witnesses weren't even allowed to testify to that.
Thank you, Black Royals.
But
I just want to let you know that everybody up here is gods and goddesses, regardless of the back and forth. We're dealing in the high dimensions and stuff. High explosives happen sometimes. But respect to all that was here. You know what I'm saying? Everybody who came.
Brother Killah Priest, brother, can I just address that for a moment?
Yeah.
You know, that energy is all good. You know, when you look across this panel, you're seeing melanated people. We are soulful people. Right. We are energetic. We're passionate. So, you know, today was very productive. The energy that you hear from any of the panelists is just our sense of conviction and our power as melanated people. And, you know, as Sabians, a big part of who we are as a community is the love of our people, our love of melanated people. We're family. So when we're coming here, it's not a us versus them. It is okay if passions flare, but we're able to subdue those passions and engage in an intellectual conversation. So in other words, it's all good, and we appreciate the opportunity for us to hear these questions, because these are the things that people are thinking, and to actually have a space where we can actually address it. And we have all the receipts. We're going to come with the facts. As Sabians, we are ontologists, and we study facts and the nature of things. So we're always going to approach with facts, and we ask those who approach us to do the same. But we really appreciate the opportunity to do that. Our job, our goal is to communicate the truth of the innocence of Dr. Malachi Z. York. So we are open to any question that will allow us to address that. So again, we appreciate that this opportunity. We would love to come back, because we basically have only scratched the surface.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot more layers in terms of the judicial misconduct, Judge Royal coaching the prosecution from the bench, May 8th, the illegal no-knock warrant. It's a lot of layers to this. So brother, if it's any opportunity, brother Killah Priest, that we could come on and address those things, we would greatly appreciate it.
Definitely.
I yield.
No doubt, definitely. I want Napah and Crumb to sit down and have a conversation. Man. I want y'all.
I want to address my sister if I can. Thank you so much to my sister, and especially to the sister, because she showed so much grace and decorum, even when it got heated between the both of us. I love the way, like she said, these are still my people. These people aren't guilty of anything. They actually are showing love and support to a leader that they learned from. So I appreciate so deeply that you, at least you people on the panel and Killah Priest, didn't get emotional with my questions. And as far as Crumb goes, I don't have anything against him.
My God. Okay.
I have nothing against the brother. It's like you said, it's all peaceful. And thank you, Priest. Even to Priest, I want to say, Priest, if it came off like I was being disrespectful, I have the utmost respect for this man. I ask him which way he wants me to go on the panel. I try to get his guidance. So I want to apologize to you if I disrespected you in any way, or if I came across in that way, because you know how I feel about you and your craft, your podcraft. So thank you. Yes, and I'll mute out now.
I thought it was interesting how Bishop Eddie Long, since we're dealing with Georgia, we brought up George Bush, we brought up sexual assault to children. I found it very I'm sorry.
Eddie Long, no, I was just laughing at Eddie
sorry
Long.
about that. Bishop Eddie Long, who was arguably definitely proven guilty of using a position of power to manipulate minors who were of the same gender as him, and being that he was all up George Bush's butt. I don't know if that was the reason exactly, but he has escaped all scrutiny. We scrutinized Dr. York while letting the fox run the hen house. So with that said, I honestly think that this, even though I wasn't there, I don't know what happened. I don't take a position to say he was innocent or guilty, but I do recognize when they attack whoever they believe is the greatest of us, and I do suspect that this possibly was that as well.
No doubt. And shout out, thank you. I didn't hear nothing from, but shout out to Rasul, because he brought all of this together, man. Shout out to Rasul. He was in the chat. I don't know what happened to Hey Room. Well, anyway, I want to thank y'all for coming. I want to let y'all off the craft, and definitely you're going to come back. We're going to build more about this and get deeper.
We appreciate you, good brother.
Yeah, no doubt, no
Much
doubt.
appreciate it.
Thank you for
Hey, yo,
coming.
Napah, we appreciate you. Appreciate your questions, your energy.
Thank you for answering those questions. I got to tell you the truth, though. I've had conversations and interviewed very many, a few Nuwaubian people who support, and this is honestly the first interview where there was some compelling answers, very good answers, and it makes me want to go back and do more research. So I will say I've spoken to maybe like had 3 or 4 interviews, and so I appreciate you all, family. So thank you once again. Thank you, Killah Priest.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
for the
come back.
pro-
I ask you about the influence of Nature Boy.
Hey, Killah Priest.
Hey, you know what?
Video.
Hey, Killah Priest, real quick.
Rasul's video.
Go ahead. Huh? What you said?
Now I was saying, don't forget to play
Killah Priest, real
Rasul's
quick.
video.
Okay, no doubt, no problem.
Yeah.
Real quick, I actually worked with Nature Boy prior to his transition to who he is now. He worked in a barbershop that was owned by another Sabian brother, and we worked together.
Yeah.
And so I knew him personally before then. He was actually a Christian and got converted somehow. So he was really influenced heavily by Dr. York's teaching, but he went to a whole nother direction. And but it's very interesting that you mentioned it.
Yeah. Got questions. All right, my brothers. I see Rasul is just coming in. You try to say you got to turn off the TV though.
Yeah, I turned it down. Can y'all hear me?
There's an echo in there.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you can be heard.
Yes, we can hear you, brother.
All right.
Why you came in so late? It's over.
I know. No, I just wanted to be a silent observer.
Oh, okay.
But the show was great. Y'all did a great job.
You approve?
Huh?
You approve?
No, it was great. It was great. I mean, I just wanted to sit back and watch and listen. So yeah, it was great. It was great.
Are you the leader of the Nuwapians?
Who, me? maybe in another time zone.
We try to find out if you know AD's the leader of the flat earthers.
If it was a multiverse, I'd probably be the leader, like
okay,
different,
all right,
another world. But no, I'm not the leader. No.
All right.
We know the brother Rasul well.
Okay, no doubt.
This is my family up here,
Yeah.
That's why I couldn't. I had to sit back and just observe. I don't want, I'm not going to be arguing with the family tribe.
No, man. And I heard Yamasi. You're
that's
from
our
the tribe of
family too.
Yamasi, my brother? With the
Who,
hat?
me?
I mean, no, my brother with you said you're
Absolutely.
native, right? Huh?
Yes.
Yamasi?
That's our tribe, Yamasi.
Okay.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Yeah. That's our people in South Carolina too.
Yes. Columbia.
We're all family. That's why I always say, everybody's arguing about the Aboriginal stuff. They need to go down there and talk to him.
Dan Calloway be here soon.
He has all the artifacts.
Dan Calloway be. See, that's going to get Dan Calloway be here soon. Yeah, all right. I want to let y'all off. Crumb, thank you for coming through. It's always been great. We're gonna continue, and then to everybody on the panel, and we got to do this again. We definitely got to do this again. We're gonna talk after this. We're gonna set up a date where we could do this, and Brother Glow is in the building. Word. Love, peace, hair greed. Exactly. Love and light.
Peace.
Okay. We in the second half. Yeah, you can stick around. We're gonna play music right now. We have you want to introduce something? We have I said Knowledge Born. I was about to say Nature Boy. NB, he's not. I wouldn't say that. No. NBKP. Salo, you coming up here? All right, yo, that was very interesting. If y'all just tuning in, man, it was off the hook, man. Y'all didn't ask enough questions. That's why you got to come back. And I got some texts for some very serious people. This is like real heavy. Man, this got cats getting up out of their bed like this. Oh, hell no, I'm going down there. They ready to come down there right now. This could go on for hours, you know what I'm saying? But we got to bring this back and cut it part 2 because my brother got to fly. And there's a lot of things going on over here.
I believe I can fly.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of things going over here. That's how it gets, man. It gets intense. But listen, we gods and goddesses. Man. We deal in the high frequencies. And when we start turning up that energy, that passion start coming in, that's how we begin to build pyramids and build these great monuments and stuff like that. Because one person, You know, they did a 1990. You used to call it 1990 now. But if you're not an acrobat, don't break dance. If you go on that dance floor now, if you don't know the first thing about acrobat, don't go on there because you get hurt. The break dancing now is not like how it used to be in the Bronx. I mean, they just starting off with acrobat. I saw the cat. He walked in, and first thing he did was a triple summy. He grabbed his leg and flipped in the air like that. It's crazy. It's off the hook. Yo, what's up? Now I was born in the building. Solid. All right, AD. Napah Shadah still in the building.
Yes, peace to Coach Solomon and Knowledge Born.
Hey.
Peace. What's up?
Now, we're going to go through, so you can start the, how y'all doing, man? You can talk to them for a minute and start
Before we get to the music?
Yeah, go ahead.
I got a surprise for you.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, you got to cut me because I got to go. I've been drinking a lot.
Okay, yeah. So...
I'll wait for you. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'll be right back.
So, peace to the craft, man. I want to say to Napah, hey, Napah, man.
What's up, brother?
Good Lord, okay? Good Lord. I want you
Bless you.
I want you to know and understand how vital critical thinking is and asking critical questions. And I want to say for all people in organizations and things like that, good works, and for families, good works and reputation does not trump something that's wrong. We're not here to address what's right. We're here to address what's wrong. So I can do it. I could be the greatest guy in the world. If I did something wrong, that has to be addressed. We hide it in families, we hide it in community, we hide it in organization, most especially in organization. Because we think about rank, position, things like that. A whole bunch of trauma has happened. So we have to give credence to that and give a voice to that and separate that from the good works. So the family came on today representing their organization, representing their leader. We just have to be able to separate one from the other. We're not indicting anybody's beliefs, anybody's good work, any of that. If this wasn't a concern or allegation, it needs to be able to put that under scrutiny, put that under the microscope. And if they're there to rectify it, if I accuse somebody or if I was accused of something, and I'm found vindicated, then the apology need to be as big as the indictment was. So we're talking about minds, we're talking about trauma, and our experience here in America has not been the greatest. So we have to be able to put those things under the microscope and divorce ourselves from our emotional connection to it if it's something that's wrong. We don't stand against anybody who harms children, who harms women, who harms anybody. We're not for that. Especially in that space. Very critical.
Wise words as usual. Thank you, Knowledge Born.
Yeah, well said. Peace to the craft, peace to everybody. Hope y'all doing well today. And peace, Napah. How you doing today?
Peace, Coach Solomon. Y'all, what's the blue theme?
Well, it wasn't planned, but it seemed like we just all wearing blue today, so we cripping out, you feel me?
We're keeping it cool.
We're not affiliated though.
We're keeping it cool, okay?
Yeah, we're not.
I like it. I love
We're
it.
not gang affiliated, just like y'all know.
No, they know you're joking. But yes, thank you for. I'd love to get the perspectives of other like-minded. I say the darkest minds of the light. It is so awesome to have someone who is respected, along with, of course, Priest, but when you and Solomon come in and give some input, it really helps balance, because I don't want to always be the bad guy, but I had to ask some tough questions. And like I said, I have nothing against the brother Crumb. It got a little emotional, but at the end of the day, I just wanted to ask the questions that people are thinking. That panel was a wonderful panel.
Right.
Well,
We
I
have
thought they were
children. So again,
right.
there's There's things where we can go to conspiracy. There's things we could go to with governmental conspiracy. These are all real things. These things really happen. People do get set up. There are false charges, especially levied against our community. When you look at something in the family dynamic that disrupts and creates generational trauma from a people that's already generationally traumatized, we have to look at it. With a fine-tooth comb, you can't miss nothing. Look how many abuses happen in our houses, in our families, that nobody ever said anything about. And how you break children, you create broken adults who break children, who become broken adults, who give generations and credence to this abuse that happened. So we really have to be mindful of those things and seek to rectify them wherever we find them, and have a zero tolerance policy for anybody or anything who commits these acts. So I just wanted to say that.
True word.
Beautifully said. And they're going to come back. So it'll be nice to see them sit down with other people who have some questions. I just really want to say, I can't say it enough, that I appreciate, because as you saw, Knowledge and Coach Solomon, Knowledge Born and Coach Solomon, they said, we know these questions are needing to be asked and we're ready. So for them to put themselves on the front line for Dr. York is really, it says a lot about their character, very upstanding. So, much love and shout out to those, to the family, those people, which they're family. They're like the sister put it very eloquently. We are all one people, even though some of us want to rip each other's heads off sometimes. Anyway.
Oh yeah, I think you handled that well. Shout out to everybody. That was a very intense debate, but it needs to be said. Everybody has different parts of the story, and it's his story, it's your story, and then there's the truth. So everybody has different parts of the story.
Right.
Wow, great, wonderful. I love that. My story, his story, and the truth.
Coach Salo, man.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Facts.
Yep.
So as we wait for Priest to come back, are y'all ready for the music?
Oh yeah, of course.
I know you love that.
Yeah, we got something fly real quick. I came bearing another gift before we left that I wanted to, share with the family before we left. The last time y'all saw me out here with the crew, and we were out here putting things together to give credence and ode to one who's given us so much. So many volumes of work, so many things over the years, and we love Priest. You see what I'm saying? So we wanted to take an opportunity to get his story told. He's another elusive member of the Wu-Tang. You see what I'm saying? But there's so many other stories that goes along with it. So we wanted to give credence to his story and honor him and honor those that were in his circumference and instrumental in what we heard. You see what I'm saying? We heard the music, we fell in love with the music, we heard the verses and all of that. So we wanted to give credence to the story from then till now.
Oh man!
So we got a little trailer of what the people can expect from this Killah. Look, another surprise. He didn't know this was about to happen.
Wow!
So we got a little snippet. You see what I'm saying of footage that's here, and we're gonna.
You were there, and you were there, and you were there.
Dorothy.
Here we go.
From the darkness came in the light.
Best I'm from Gateside.
I was born in Bushman. My upbringing is in Bed-Stuy. And a lot of MCs came through my block. A lot. Big Daddy King, Jay-Z, Jazzo, and a lot of them came up. My block was like a haven for that. I'm a fan of rap and all of it. So just being just being a fan of it made me want to push a little harder. So I had a mixture of guards and Hebrew Israelites, and Islam, you know, so it came from a lot of mixture. I kind of like had a lot of this energy that was in there, so it's like a different type of philosophies in there.
But they didn't give it, when it came in, it's slick because it never was just set. It was like, you got a demo deal. So the demo deal, at first, you stress out, like, damn, I got a demo deal. That's good. But just say deal. You know, once you hand in the songs, then you got the deal. So I handed in the songs. But I wanted to hear, yo, the deal is yours.
And 3 of us formed the Maccabees out of that. Hellraiser came, and then Timbo came. It was supposed to be all 5 of us, but it didn't work out. We got Black Market. We'll talk about that later.
It was my song. It was a song I had called As I Die Slowly. So it was the same thing, and then we just called it America. It was the whole clan. So there's a song called As I Die Slowly. So I said, yo, I got the song. Because they would say, yo, we wanted something for AIDS. So I said, I got a song about AIDS, but it had to be all of it. It had to be the clan. So I said, America is dying slowly. And we just ran with it. RZA loved it.
To do the next video, they was just like, sorry, there's no more videos, no more nothing. We done. So after Heavy Mental, it was like, I was really like, man, I'm done with this, you know? So I was ready to go independent then. But then MCA called me with a check. View from Masada was about to be born. I met this producer that was in there. He kept asking me, I kept going to the studio, and it was like, yo, man, this cat keep going to your studio session, you know, and he wanted to hit you with some beats. He was working there. He had dreads. It was Just Blaze. 4th Chamber, we in the studio. I'm over here with Jizza. Ghost and Ray is over there recording at the same time. And this dude, I just saw this dude in the middle of the circle, commanding it. And this, I never seen that done, especially with the clan. Like nobody had did that. At that time, this cat was different. And that's when my first time encountering the cannabis. We met sword to sword, man.
The offering is all New York. When I came out here, it was like more of a, like behind the stained glass where it started at.
But then I started getting out, and then artists, I seen people wanted to work with me and things like that. So I was like, oh, yo, this is a little different. And other than the clan, like we was doing it because we was keeping everything in the house. It was my first time out, so I started working with other artists. So
4 Horsemen came, the idea came from cannabis towards me. Can't speak for the rest of them. And then he told me to call Corrupt, gave me Corrupt number, and Raz. And me and Raz already had a relationship, it was cool. But the first one who brought that to my attention was cannabis. He was like, yo, we gotta start a group. I wanna do it, it's gonna be me, you, Raz, Kaz, and Corrupt.
It was just special to me. I started meeting people that I was fans of myself, and like DJ Pooh and all these guys, it was just dope. You know what I mean? I didn't know they was actually listening. I just thought we was making music, and it was right there. We was all celebrating right there, and that was it. Hip hop is here to stay, and I'm a part of it. So let's go.
It means a lot to me. This is all behind the stained glass. So when I first came out here, I moved out to Manhattan Beach, and I came to Topanga, which was a whole different world. This place, mountainy, it's the view from Masada. Is the vision, is the vision.
Wow, that was awesome.
Dang, man. Yo, put some fire up in the chat room, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, that was dope.
Killed me with that, man.
Was dope.
Damn. That was hard. What a way to celebrate.
Shout out to Che Black, man. Che Black put that together.
Black. Yeah.
You know, so we could have an offering. It's a gift offering. You see what I'm saying?
Thank you, Che Black. Word. Che Black was here.
Yeah.
Him and AD battled.
Right. Figuratively and literally.
Yeah, I did. Remember?
Nah, yeah.
It was fly. It was fly.
It was fly.
It was fly.
Yeah. Word. Shout out to
When
Che.
is the full documentary going to be available for us all to see? That was really awesome.
We wanted to give y'all a bomb teaser. We still have some elements that have to make, like some interviews to be done with some people that was vital that, Priest really wants in there. And it's going to, probably be released in a series form to give better credence to the story. Because, he's still creating, the story's still being written. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of people that wanted their say. So.
That's peace.
Wonderful.
That's peace. Can't lie on that. I'm excited.
There's so many layers to you, Priest.
Y'all gonna see Silo in there.
Yeah, word.
Salo's in the building. You're gonna see AD. AD's in the building.
Yeah.
You're gonna see Rasul. You're gonna see Miyoshi. It's so many people that it's there, and there's still other people that we make connections and contact with. We just have to go get their footage because a lot of people have a lot of things to say.
That's true.
Beautiful. Beautiful. The 25th anniversary of your heavy mental, Priest. It's amazing that he got this together for you. It's so timely.
I'm moved. I'm touched. That's crazy, man.
Yo, this is Ali Leonidas. I never.
Amazing.
I heard some people in the chat that were saying that they didn't get a chance to see it up close.
Yeah.
So can we do something with the camera so they can see it?
Killed.
Got it? Nice.
Damn!
Yup.
Wow.
Gravediggers came into the time frame. I'll break that down on
That's
on
fire.
Patreon.
Right.
The Gravediggers came into the frame about it was right after. I remember. Well, it was done a while ago. You know
It was
what I mean?
right before the Wu.
Yeah.
That's like the precipice of the Wu-Tang coming together. So
right.
Gravediggers happened, and the Wu was supposed to be Jizza, Dirty, and RZA.
Right.
Originally.
Yep.
And, it spawned out to 9 members. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, that's some of the background that I got.
Rest on the Patreon.
Rest on the Patreon. So this is for hip hop's vanguard, okay? Like we went through this, and this is something that we wanted to give to you. Originally, it was supposed to have been like a plaque. You see what I'm saying? But you got plaques already. You see what I'm saying? So this is something. When it was seen, it was like, okay, a warrior for the culture with with the sword and the shield. For God hop, for priest hop, for conscious music in the righteous way. Like we give that moniker to so many people who don't fit that. Like they might have a song that might be talking about something. They didn't create a lane for many of the artists, male and female, to come after to stand in the space of divinity. So, Killah Priest stood in the gap. It cost him a lot over the years. But now the people are kind of catching up to it, and it's a reverse, of things like that. So if y'all listen, like Rasul and his group, Lost Children of Babylon, if y'all hear Jedi Mind Tricks, there's so many. It's not just the clan. It's the clan and everybody else after. Everybody, that came before, and then everybody who came after. So we get a witness of a resurgence of divine God culture in spoken rhyme form. So, for our vanguard, you see what I'm saying? 25 years, since Heavy Mental, man, we wanted to give you something that would mean something to you from us. You know what I mean? So.
And we will be doing the 25th anniversary of Heavy Mental tribute on Friday here in Phoenix, March 10th. At the Wave Studios. So I just want to remind people of that. If you're going to be in Phoenix or if you want to be there, it will be just a gathering to honor Priest for all his wonderful work and the 25 years of that album. I have been listening to it. Of course, I'm amazed. I'm always amazed by him in everything that he does as far as his lyrics go. So thank you, Killah Priest, for your contribution to art, the artistic world and the lives of people.
Thank you for that.
And this the last craft before AD's birthday. AD turned 21. You know what I'm saying? Salute to A Dizzle on Friday on the 10th as well.
Good looking. Yeah.
Right. Shout out to AD.
What up? That's cool. Hell yeah.
Shout out.
10.
We drinking age, you know.
Oh, you turned 21?
Yeah.
21? Oh, yeah?
Well, you know, not really 21. I'm going to identify as 39.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Understood. I was going to say, you're younger than me for a second.
Yeah.
I was going to say that.
You look younger than that.
I know. I still dress like a teenager, so it's hard to tell my actual age.
Understood.
But, yeah, that's how I stay feeling young.
Yeah, that's respectable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Go
ahead.
Sorry. Gardens of the Gods, yes, we will be live streaming it.
Okay.
Here we go.
Anywho.
Nice. All right.
Fine, moving on. So AD, take us to the music.
Yeah, time for a segment.
We are wearing blue, man. Yeah.
Segment we call Song Promotions.
Song Promotions.
Yeah. And we're going to start off today's song promotions with Cat Jones.
Okay.
AD, they said you got the same birthday as Chuck Norris. Somebody said
Yeah,
something.
same birthday. Chuck Norris, Timberland, and...
Oh, that's a real fact? You know, they
yeah.
be saying Chuck Norris for everything.
I think Sharon Stone, too, if y'all know who Sharon Stone is.
Oh.
But, yeah, man.
You got a spicy birthday. Spicy.
Shit. Okay, hold on. I'm still set up on this screen for Sharon. But I'll flip it up. Here we go. Cap Jones music. This song is called No Escape. He says, shout out to my brother Jay McL Fresh for the beat, and he does push me. And all he does to push me. Shout out to the whole craft. God bless. Here we go.
This is the real life. This is the real life. Open your eyes. Open your eyes. No escape. This is the real life. Escape. This is the real life. Open your eyes. No escape. Open your eyes.
Look to the sky, eyes closed, a tight hold. On reality, constructed, you've been sold. Hit by life's truck, blind spot at a stoplight. Fist fight, out of sleep with the thief at night. Sweet dreams, short-lived. The bomb was on its way the whole time. You never knew that it had you on lock. To shake it is impossible. Shattered like glass, your internal compass is trash. Everything you thought life would be no longer possible. The struggle to accept is a river that's uncrossable. The fourth dimension slows down for the first time, and you feel each and every detail of life. See the fragile nature, and nothing's justified. Forever time lost can't be quantified. You don't get to write the scene, just react. Open your eyes, there's no turning back, and yeah, there's no escape.
This is the real life. This is the real life. Open your eyes. Open your eyes. No escape. This is the real life. This is the real life. Open your eyes. Open your eyes.
Typical day, late in the afternoon. I've been trying to reach her for days, but we never linked. I kept thinking to myself, why won't she pick up my sister and I? Going back and forth like, did you get a hold of her? She won't answer, but you know how she gets. Last time y'all talked, was she mad at me? I don't think so, it's probably fine. She's probably busy, let's give it time. Each break in the day I'd call to leave a message. The first few were normal, the next few got aggressive. I'm worried, please give me a call back, I firmly suggested. Then I had to call a wellness check-in. All blessings were dried up and hope was lost when I got the call back that she was gone. No redos, no second chances, this is the life I'm handed. Abandoned, scrambling like Cunningham, and now there's no escape.
This is the real life. This is the real life. Open your eyes. your rise.
Yo, that was fire. That was fire. I really like what you did with that sample. I was like, uh-oh, he's sampling Queen. But the way you layered them, the way you made that work, I can almost see how you did it. It sounds cool. It flows, and it's a legitimate like hook. So I like that. And the mix was good. Mastering was cool. I like that track. Go ahead. What y'all think?
Yeah, that was dope, Cap. You know, I'm not gonna lie. Like, yeah, the sample was fire. You know what I mean? It was a real chill flow to me. I like it a lot. You know, I can't say much more. Like, AD kind of already stole my points.
Oh, my bad.
Nah, you good. But I liked it a lot, though. It was fire.
Right. I did. I just want to say ditto. I loved it. It was really an awesome professional production from what I know. And I'm a fan of Queen, so you already got me with that. I love how you sampled that. So thank you.
I like it. It's like a very melodic. I caught the Queen. I caught the 80 vibes and the little haunted. Like it was like a tasteful little haunted vibe to it. You know, like a cool type of vibe. Keep it going.
Yeah. All right, knowledge.
So I heard the sample used, but I never heard the sample used in this way. So that's unique within itself. And the lyrics, if y'all hear the story, like this was a very, like we were just speaking about, in short, protecting our families. And here comes Cap with an instance of real life, close to home. Like, I don't know if y'all see me, I shook my head. Like, you could already foretell what had happened in the story. And how many stories do you hear like that? So again, you know, with the art form, you know, with the vanguards, you have a responsibility to report. You have a responsibility to respond in cases of harm, you know. So there's layers to the story lyrically and layers to life. So he gave us, this is the real life. So literally this is bugged out right here. It's crazy. Salute Cap for this submission right here. This is close to the heart.
It's Kim. When I say Kim, I mean keep it moving.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we got another submission here by Cap Jones. He submitted two. This next one is called Dream Flight.
I see you, cover boy.
Hold up.
I can really see a future for you and me where everybody believes in the thought of humanity. Plenty places to stay, plenty of food and drink, plenty of healthy conversations on our beliefs. I can really see a future for you and me where everybody believes in the thought of humanity. Love, understanding, patience, and then trust. It's a must for every single one of us. Yo, it's really fishy now how I'm supposed to act right. Pressure coming down like stalactites, or is it stalagmites? I always get them mixed up. 2 boosts wasn't enough, but the next will get us fixed up. Y'all believe the bullshit? To me it seems like the world's asleep, counting sheep, Delta dream flight. Bags packed but really lack the proper planning, and we have no clue where we're landing. And fuck watching the news, man, I'm just trying to live. Cause they just want us all to feud like Pac and Big. Divide the whole lot, kill our self-sufficiency. Predictably, that's always been the plan, check your history. Generate a problem, then capitalize. Wage war and fund the issue on both sides. Marginalize any view trying to analyze the facts and distract anything outside the party lines. I can really see a future for you and me where everybody believes in the thought of humanity. Plenty places to stay, plenty of food and drink, plenty of healthy conversations on our beliefs. I I can really see a future for you and me where everybody believes in the thought of humanity. Love, understanding, patience, and then trust. It's a must for every single one of us. The burden weighs so much, we all just gotta put it down. Cause it stops the moment that it hits the ground. Take a deep breath, follow instinct. There's only us, regardless what we all think. One community, the essence of harmony. Everybody pulling the cart in the same direction. A conscious manifest in the form of the true blessings. Enlightening, uplifting our brethren. Thank God that I have the opportunity to finally see. Money doesn't run the world, it gatekeeps. The true resource is our hands and feet. Blood, sweat, and tears, effort and bravery. We stand and face the struggle each day collectively. Compartmentalized under greed. All by design. And if we open our minds, then we'll find the lives we live are divine and we can make it. I can really see a future for you and me where everybody believes in the thought of humanity. Plenty places to stay, plenty of food and drink, plenty of healthy conversations on our beliefs. I can really see a future for you and me where everybody believes in the thought of humanity. Love, understanding, patience, and then trust. It's a must for every single one of us.
Fire. Cap Jones and Jay McElfresh. Dream Flight. That was dope. He says it's part 2 of his Yin Yang submission tonight. Peace to J Mac for the beat. All up to Priest and the Craft. Good vibes only. That was cool. Really good vibes. Really chill, well produced track. Well, good mix. I love it. That was nice. That's good. What y'all think?
Yeah, you know, that telling me a story. I like it a lot. It flows. You know, I can't say much more. You know, Cap Jones killing it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same here. I thought it was really great. I like it. It was catchy. So shout out to Cap Jones.
Okay. Man, I like everything about it. It was dope. It was real smooth. Man, it's just like you got it, man. You got the touch. Whatever you believe, and you keep believing in yourself, it's right. I heard enough.
Cap, man, this was special. It's nice to see that with our art form, we can direct the reality. Like, you know, many times we go back and forth and say we ain't ever all got along and all of this. You picked up a pen and painted a different picture with it. You're still hopeful in a society to exist where we all believe in humanity. You see what I'm saying? Like literally. You know, Dr. King had a dream about it, and you picked up a pen and you painted a visualization in our minds, you know, in our hearts. You know, regardless of what, you know, different beliefs and things like that, these things should come second to humanity. So, you know, thank you for the jewels and for the pearls and the wisdom. You know, the distractions are out there, the malice is out there, all of these other things are out there, but you're also out there. So we got to give credence and ode to that. And, well-deserved praises.
Yes, indeed. Let's Kim.
Yeah. Let's go. All right. Next, now we got a track here from Year of the Mosquito, Master of the Universe.
Hey, did you get the beat?
Yes, I did.
All right.
From the God Sector. This track is called Fear Not, Ye Are Gods.
Hey.
Hello, Mosquito.
Hello, Mosquito.
Smooth. He got us writing this out for 3 minutes, yo. It's dope.
It's like
it's almost erotic a little bit.
Told you, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Put $100 in your pocket. Nah, what was the rest of the money? Yeah.
Hello, Mosquito.
Hello, Mosquito.
That was Fear Not, Ye Are Gods by Year of the Mosquito, Master of the Universe. Check them out on SoundCloud. As with all the submissions, all the links are in the description. That was cool. Had a vibe to it. Funky smooth. Smooth and funky.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. It was like groove.
Yeah.
And a jam. It's a jam. Like to me, it was a real jam that I like. It's real smooth. It was hip hop. You know what I mean? I like that a lot. All right. But yeah. I like that a lot. It's groovy.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I liked it too. It's really smooth, really kicked back. I like all of Mosquito's submissions, so that one was really nice. You could really vibe to it. Thank you for letting me give my input.
Oh, Mosquito. Hello, Mosquito. Man, that was like, it's a dope beat, smooth. Enough, like I said before, enough layers to it to dig into it, and there's a nice smooth melody. It just shows your range. It's dope.
I heard Bill Duke say, all right, listen to me, you little. You said you bought the bottle of beer at 9 o'clock. And then you said you bought the bottle of beer at 10 o'clock. Mosquito said, you know you done fucked up, right? You know you done fucked up. It was melodic, it was jazzy, it was cool. I'm telling you, like, it was. We was looking at that picture earlier with Fred Williamson, Jim Kelly, and Jim Brown. You see what I'm saying? Like that was like them walking into town. I could have been in the background, you know, for Through the Hard Way. You see what I'm saying? Like that kind of space for blaxploitation. Yeah, it was amazing, Mosquito. Hello, Mosquito. Buzz, 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 buzz.
Yeah.
Play.
All right, let's go. Next now, we got a submission from DJ Aurora Borealis.
Aurora.
It's called Royal Flush, produced by Anabolic Beats.
What?
to hear it.
Yeah, you guys with the verse, yo. That's a hook.
That's right. That got me hype. I like shit like that because I would want to do like a verse.
Who the hell you say I am? It's
Yeah,
like that,
exactly. It does have that kind of fun, that feel to it. Yeah, it'd be like a 6/8 type of verse cadence. You know, it's with the that would be hard. I like that verse. I mean, I like that that beat. Really well made. I never heard of anabolic beats before, but I'm subscribing. That's hard.
He got in his own. He left.
Man, I mean, I like making beats,
he
but
flew
I like.
outside of the rocket. He was
Yeah,
going-
if I feel it, I feel it. I'm a Pisces. I can't hide that. That was hard. Anyway, y'all go ahead. What y'all think?
Nah, it was dope. That was like when I first heard it, it was like drill already. I heard drill, and I heard like it was booming. You know what I mean? So I definitely like when I first heard that, I smiled. So I definitely dealt with it too. You know what I mean, that was dope.
What you think, Napah?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I liked it. It was superhero music. I imagined like superheroes saving people, throwing cars and flying people from one place to another, stopping the world from ending. It was awesome. Very epic music. Shout out to Voltage.
Voltage? Did that be?
Oh, that wasn't Voltage?
No. That was someone named Anabolic Beats, but that was cool.
Oh, I'm sorry. Anabolic Beats.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Why did I say Voltage?
I don't know. I mean, it was good enough. Probably Voltage would produce something like that too. That was cool.
It's okay,
Oh,
Sharita.
wow.
It's okay, Sharita.
What's Farina mean? What's
No,
Farina?
because you got Voltage name wrong, so I got your name wrong. It's a joke. It's a double entendre. You know, I'm like,
Oh, Sharina. Oh, okay.
They said, thank you, Voltage.
I know. I thought it was Voltage. My bad. Sorry, Anabolic Beats.
Let me.
That was awesome, though.
Yeah, let me say this. That see, that was anabolic. It was dope. It was dope. Because I thought it was Aurora Borealis.
He submits other people's beats sometimes.
Okay, that's the type of beat that that Aurora face could just be spinning in the front, in the forefront, like all his greatest works. Tell you, that was dope. That was dope. I'll pass it on.
I had
There you go.
Look, I was so hype over here looking at AD went in the zone. I'm telling y'all, there's certain beats that do it to you like that, speak to you from a cultural space, and speak to you from whatever space at all. Like all of the things kind of went together for it. So I heard like the Zelda / Mario Brothers / Desperados / El Mariachi, all of that all together in one space, and that switch up was hard. Like it come in like it's light, and then bam, you get hit with a sledgehammer. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, all right, you in the zone now. Like, you know, I heard Priest writing. I heard this thing with one of the producers that produced You, Me, Him, Her. He produced that track. And he said, once Jay-Z starts rapping in his head, it's over. This is what he said. So I heard Priest over here. He was rhyming in his head. I heard it. I heard him rhyming. I heard AD rhyming.
I put a little hook in there real quick.
Right. And I heard Salo over here rhyming, man. So that's a good testament to when you put all the right elements together. And that was accomplished right there.
Fire.
That was anabolic.
It was. I like that name too.
I got a quick pump.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Got a quick pump.
That's dope. I subscribe to them. That's dope. All right. Shout out to Aurora Borealis for that submission. Next up now, we got a special submission here from someone named Rasul Allah 7.
Man, May 8th, he's dropping his album. Shout out to Rasul.
Okay, here we go. This track is called May 8th Survivors, produced by Anno Domini Beats.
You say AD Beats?
Anno Domini.